All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're in for one hell of a podcast today. This will probably be one of the most important podcasts that we ever do. And the two, well, actually, three main courses of today's podcast. The first going to be I'm going to go in depth and try to explain to you guys how the intelligence community works. That'll be the first topic. And then the second topic will be where I get my source material. Who do I listen to? How do I come to the conclusions that I do following the news cycle today? And then third, which will tie it all in, which will be the obviously the big story, the 2020 election with President Donald J. Trump and Joe Biden. So my father's going to sit there. He's going to put out all the links and all that kind of stuff and get some viewers into the chat here. And I'm just going to go into it right now. So if you see me reading a lot, I've been up the last couple nights preparing for this podcast. I have a lot of source material and notes. And I'm probably gonna have to read word for word from some of it. So if you see me looking off to the side of the camera, it's because I'm reading from my notes here. So let's start off with understanding intelligence. So I think the biggest hypocrisy right now with the whole election is you got all the people who are the Biden supporters or the deep staters who are saying, how dare you guys contest the election, right? The biggest hypocrisy for the last 3 years, it's been Russia, Russia, Russia collusion. And it's all been, the Russians have influenced the election and they're the reason why Trump got in, blah, blah, blah. And nobody conceded to the election when Trump won. But now all of a sudden that it looks like Biden's winning, which we'll get into that and what I think is actually going to happen. Now everyone on the Biden team is, well, you guys got to concede to the election. Everything's okay. There's no messery afoot here. And I just want to explain to you guys in a history here of government intelligence agencies and what they actually do. So let's get into the regime change that the United States of America has done for the last 100 and some years. So I'm going to send a link over to my father, and he can bring it up for us here in live time. Let me just send the link over right here. Okay. And this link, what it is, it's basically a wiki link. And the wiki link, it lists all the different times the United States of America has had their hands meddling in regime change around the globe. So why I point this out is when you have the United States of America, the Democrats, the Nancy Pelosi's, the Adam Schiffs, the deep staters coming out here and saying Trump's only in because Russia helped him, you need to understand that the United States is the biggest hypocrite on the planet if they're kind of try to say that they don't meddle in other foreign dictatorships and other foreign powers in their elections. So my father, Dad, don't just read through it. Just kind of slowly scroll through it while I'm talking. So
Okay.
people can see the extent of how much the United States government has been involved in regime change. And what's another word for regime change? Meddling in elections, meddling in governments, right? Maybe toppling a certain individual who's the prime minister or president or whatever dictator and putting in your own sock puppet and stuff like that. People also got to understand, why is it that when you look on a map and you see all the places that America has military bases around the world, how did they get there? They got there by doing regime change and deals and making it so they could have these military establishments all around the globe. So, Dad, just slowly scroll down right now with your finger. And everyone can see here, and you guys can go find this wiki yourself. You just search United States involvement in regime change. And as you can see, as he's flicking through, this is an extensive piece of document here. We're showing stuff going back to the 1800s, 1900s, 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, all the way up into modern times. As you can see, all that there for in the footnotes, all those links that you can click on each individual one, explaining United States has been involved in regime change in Nicaragua. They've been involved in regime change in the Middle East, the Egyptian Springs, all these different things in communist countries as well. So understanding that all governments around the world are constantly trying to do these regime change, do these tactics against each other. So when I heard in 2016 that the Russians were doing this Russian bot thingy and they were trying to influence the election, I was like, big whoop. Intelligence agencies, anyone in the United States intelligence agency knew that this stuff was going to happen. They've planned for it. It's nothing new. What are you telling me? All that Russia did was get some Russian bots on there and start trolling the internet in favor of Trump and talking
Yeah.
bad about Hillary. If that's the extent of the Russian collusion, then they are so behind the standard of what the United States is capable of when it comes to regime change. So this is regime change on the front, right? This is just the stuff that that you know about that you can watch here in through the hyperlinks. Now, how do they do these different regime change? Regime change is done with a wide spectrum of tactics. Now, it could be you send in your own CIA agents into that country to do reconnaissance missions, to gain intel, blah, blah. It could be bribing certain politicians. It could be blackmail operations. It could be, now we're learning with the Chinese CCP, they like to use an operation where they gather all the intelligence and blackmail individuals as well. So I'm going to read now off some of my notes here. So Russia didn't do anything majorly different or unknown to U.S. intelligence agencies that they didn't already know. Russia bots and propaganda is small fry stuff on the grand scheme of regime change tactics. You also have the Communist Manifesto that has been used for regime change by communists throughout the centuries. It also seems that the Israelis and Chinese also like their blackmail operations. This is what Epstein and all that was. And the Biden family corruption and the compromise. Money bribes, sexual perversions, spying on world leaders for compromising photos and info, data gathering for leverage. It's how can we get dirt on individuals? So if you're the United States of America, or for this example, forget it. Let's say you're China, you're communist China, and you want to influence American politicians. Well, what's a common strategy they use? Can I buy that politician off? No. If not, can I gather enough intel on the man or the woman to find a way to blackmail the individual? Are they cheating on their wife? Can I use that as a way to gain leverage over this and control over this politician or person in control? Same with judges and lawyers. So all this type of stuff and these tactics happen every single day, and I'm going to get into a few of them. I would also encourage people to go check out the movie. It's called Red Sparrow, and it was 2018 American spy thriller film, and it stars Jennifer Lawrence. Dad, have you ever seen that movie called Red Sparrow?
I don't think I have.
Jennifer Lawrence. Well, it's a good watch for all the viewers, including my father. Should go check this movie out. And I'll tell you what the movie was about. It tells a story of a Russian intelligence officer who is sent to make contact with a CIA officer in hopes of discovering the identity of a mole based on historic Soviet espionage, sexpionage. They call it sexpionage. Now, what is sexpionage? Sexpionage is the involvement of sexual activity or the possibility of sexual activity, intimacy, romance, seduction, and the conduct of espionage. Sex or the possibility of sex can function as a distraction, an incentive, a cover, a story, or an unintended part of any intelligence operation. Sexpionage has been historically documented phenomena, and even the CIA has been previously added in Negro's West historical documentary on sexpionage and its purpose in these intelligent officers' books. So, understanding that we all know this, if you got a judge or a politician and you want control of that individual and you can't bribe them, you can't find any dirt on them, then why don't you send in a beautiful woman in a red dress to maybe bump him in maybe one day going from one office to another. Oh, judge, you're so handsome and beautiful, and seep his way. Some of these sexpionage agents, some of these Russians, and what you'll learn watching the movie Red Sparrow with Jennifer Lawrence, is they will spend years. In some cases will even marry these individuals. They'll marry them. They'll have kids with them, and then they'll find out down the road that the whole marriage, the kids, everything was a fraud. It was all just a relationship set up to gain intelligence and control over that person. This is the type of tactics that intelligence agencies use that the general public has no sweet clue probably about. They watch a spy movie and think, wow, that's a spy movie. That could never happen in real life, which of course it does. It's a tactic that's used, and it's a very good tactic. As a man myself, I know the power of sex and beautiful women. And yeah, you're damn right it's used in the intelligence agency. So let me continue. So another word commonly known for sexpionage is a honey trap. A honey trap operation.
The honey trap.
Which is designated to compromise an opponent sexually to elicit information from that person. In the KGB, a man who is the seducer in a honey trap operation is known as a raven. A female seductress is also known as a swallow. The raven effectively functions as an undercover pimp, while the swallow functions as an undercover prostitute.
Wonder if there's a double
nest.
entendre there.
What's that?
Sorry for interrupting your flow, but I wonder if there's a double entendre with the swallow.
Oh, for sure. So we know the Chinese use it, we know the Americans use it, and we know the Russian KGB use sexpionage. So let me continue with it. So the swallow's nest was given the name for a double apartment in which the target would seduce one in the room while the KGB agent next door used techniques and filmed the entire affair. And then we could use that as leverage on the person. So that's honey trapping. Now, also, segueing off of the honey trapping, you get into the back in the 60s and the 50s when it was not socially acceptable for homosexuals to come out in public, right? If you were a judge and if you were a politician in the 50s and 60s and people back then found out that you were a closet homosexual back in those times, it could be damning to your career. It could be a disaster, right? So this is why things like Bohemian Grove, when you hear these conspiracy theories, what's Bohemian Grove? You got this group of rich politician men and all these well-connected people. They go off into the woods and they do these weird rituals and gay stuff. What's that all about? Or what's Skull and Bones, this conspiracy group of these Yale students who sit in a coffin, jerk off to each other, and tell each other compromising details? What is this all about? It's this whole program, whether it's Bohemian Grove, Skull and Bones, and all these other intelligence agencies, the programs that they are is to compromise each individual. Because if you and your judge buddy can tell each other, hey, we're both fucking on our wives, we're both having affairs, we're both homosexuals in the closet, and you compromise each other with this material, it's more likely to hold each individual accountable than blowing the whistle on these crimes or these things that these people are doing that are illegal. In most cases, they all hold each other accountable by compromising each other. It's all a big compromising game with each other. So that's what's going on at the higher echelons of government, which is the Bohemian Groves, the Skull and Bones, all that stuff. All those are male fraternity groups based on gathering individuals who are going to rise to fame, power, and connection when they get older through their career choices, and establishing a boys group to compromise each other, to enrich each other, and work with each other in the later futures. So let's continue on. Another one that's very interesting, and everything I'm going through right now, I like to explain to you guys the stuff that you can go and research and it's already declassified from the government. I know stuff and speculative stuff that's not declassified that I really can't get into and then people look at me and say, well, you're a conspiracy theory. Everything I'm telling you right now, you can go even Google on mainstream platforms and find yourself. Here's the next one let's get into. Operation Midnight Climax, which is quite a funny name. Now, what is Operation Midnight Climax? Operation Midnight Climax was an operation carried out by the CIA as a sub-project of Project MK Ultra, the mind control research program that began in the 1950s. It was initiated in 1954 by Sidney Gobdet and placed under the direction of the Federal Narcotics Bureau of Boston, Massachusetts. And what this program, Operation Midnight Climax, let me explain to you what the CIA was doing in the 50s and 60s. So the project consisted of, it started in 1954. It consisted of a web of CIA-run safe houses in San Francisco, Marina County, California, and New York City, and it established in order to study the effects of LSD on unconscious and unconsenting individuals. Prostitutes on the CIA's payroll were instructed to lure clients back to the CIA safe house, where they would slip them a wide range of substances, including LSD, to monitor behind a one-way glass the effects of such drugs. So this is stuff, people, that you can Google, and it's declassified, and it's 100%. There's no conspiracy theory. Even the government acknowledges the existence of this program. So you had CIA officials with your taxpayer paying prostitutes to lure Johns off the street without their knowledge, without their consent. They think they're just getting a blowjob, or they're getting their nut blew out on a prostitute. And here they actually got CIA government taxpayer agents on a double-sided wall watching them and studying them and saying, this is interesting. Sex is a powerful tool. We can really use this to bribe and control people. Hey, let's slip them some LSD. And why that's interesting is if you take a drug and you know that you're taking a drug, your mind can prepare for that, right? But if you just all of a sudden are screwing a prostitute in some dirty safe house, and all of a sudden you start hallucinating balls and you start having this LSD trip, and you have no sweet clue you even took LSD, people might lose their goddamn mind. So the CIA was like, we need to study this. What's the repercussions of taking a drug without their knowledge? And then they would use the prostitutes to try to talk to them, to try to see if under the influence of these drugs, these serums, these drugs that they would concoct up in the lab, where they could develop a true serum. Would they maybe tell more truth and be more honest if they're under the influence? So this is Operation, just a subsidiary of Operation MK Ultra, which was a large program that was to understand, is there a way to actually do mind control? Is there a way to not only control a person's mind? Is there a way to implant thoughts into their mind? Is there also a way to erase thoughts in their mind? Because think about it. If you catch a foreign spy, yeah, it's great to try and torture him, to try to beat him up, do whatever the tactics that have been used for hundreds of years to try to get the dirt out of that spy, to try to figure out, hey, who sent you? But it'd be a better way to try to actually brainwash that spy, to learn all the details and collect intelligence data from that spy, and then to rewire his mind and send him back to the Russians, back to the Chinese, and now he's actually a spy for you. So that was the goal behind MK Ultra. It was like, how can we understand how the human brain works? How can we use this to do basically Manchurian Candidate type situations, set up super soldiers, erase memories? Also it was beneficial to the CIA and intelligence agencies that if they send a soldier over to do a declassified, highly top secret operation, that after that, they could also wipe their own agent's mind so that he wouldn't have any memory of the program that he just did. They also, research purposes, were like, soldiers suffer from PTSD going and doing some of these bad things we get them to do. Is there a way that we can erase their mind and they go back to their daily life? So there was a huge scientifical rush to try to understand all these ideas and concepts of how the human brain works. So now this is what the United States government has done, that is declassified MK Ultra. Now, what did MK Ultra that was declassified? It consisted of, they would put them in induced comas for weeks and months at a time. They would do sleep deprivation. As you can see, they would slip them drugs without their consent. And all these things are kind of bad. But what you don't hear about and what didn't get declassified is the stuff that was hardcore torture, the stuff that they're not going to tell you because it's literally crimes against humanity. And if those programs came to the public's eye, those people who conducted those programs would probably be in life in jail or even hung in some cases for the crimes against humanity. Now, to give you an example of this, we segue over to the Nazi Germany, and we segue over to Dr. Mengele, the angel of death. Now, who is Dr. Mengele? Dr. Mengele was a head physician at Auschwitz. He was part of a team of doctors in which he would select people that were suitable for work, in which he had to gas right away. So he's in charge of gassing the Jews. He's in charge of getting rid of a bunch of people. Well, Dr. Mengele is like, well, Jesus, if I'm going to kill these people anyway, why not experiment on them, right? Why not cut into his body? Why not try to do mind control techniques? Why not try to do all these things to understand how the human brain and human biology works? Because, hey, we're just going to gas them and throw them in a ditch anyway. I might as well try to get some scientific value out of that body, right? So this is the mindset of Dr. Mengele, evil Nazi doctor. And he was very fascinated with the experience of using twins. He liked to do study on twins. Now, what Dr. Mengele, some of the nasty things this doctor would do is he would do blood transfusions. He would cut organs out of the children. He would sew one twin's arm on the other twin's arm. Like, we're talking sick, torturistic stuff. We're talking keeping these individuals up for weeks at a time until their mind goes crazy. We're talking electroshock therapy stuck to the side of your brain and literally zapping and frying your brain. So some very nasty, torturistic tactics. Basically looks like something like a Hostel movie or a Saw movie. And through the Nazi research and through the MK Ultra and the CIA research, they found that, wow, the human brain, you can actually tweak with it. And this was determined through trauma-based mind control. So they understood that if you took a child, or you took even an adult in some cases, and you put them through such a traumatic event, that a human brain was smart and could adapt. And how it could adapt to being traumatized so badly is it would literally shut down and segue the mind into different compartments and to suppress the trauma-based memories as a way to cope with it, as a way to just exist as a human being. And the CIA and the Nazis, they learned all this stuff. So they use these techniques. Okay, yeah, I'll pass it over to you for some.
No, I'm just wondering because the only thing I'm a little bit concerned about here is we did call this the presidential election stream.
All ties in.
We're not
it all ties in.
Because I get it, but we probably should actually kind of reference the actual election. Probably would be a good idea.
We will. But people when they think about the election, they need to realize what I'm trying to pound in their heads right now is the government is capable of torturing you, killing you.
Yeah, I know, but there's lots of
experimenting on you.
That stuff. We got to actually talk. I know that. I totally get it, but we really got to talk about the election because that's kind of what we're here for. So,
for sure. Anyway, I'm about halfway through my notes here, and then I got we'll go on into the election stuff.
All right,
it's all going to tie together.
Okay, cool. He knows what he's talking. Brent Alderson's on your side.
Yes,
actually, I know Brent very well. We've talked in the past. Actually, if anyone else is on the stream, if you want to check, just type in Brent Alderson in the Canadian Libertarian YouTube channel, and you'll see that we've had a couple conversations in the past as well. But go ahead, Matt.
Okay, so yeah, Dr. Mengele, CIA, and all this stuff, world wars, so the Americans kick down the doors, they defeat the Germans, they defeat the Nazis. They bust down the doors and they look in all these labs and all these concentration camps, and they find all this horrendous stuff that was happening in these areas, and they find the work that Dr. Mengele was doing and all these other corrupt Nazi scientists. The rocket scientists like Werner von Braun, all that kind of stuff. And what did the CIA do? That they didn't put these people away for crimes against humanity. They said, you guys were doing some very good work over here. It might have been under our country deemed as crimes against humanity, but we see the scientific value and the information you gathered from doing those experiments. So what did they do? They said, instead of giving you guys life in prison or killing you, how about we give you a job? So they hired Operation Paperclip. They hired a bunch of these Nazi scientists, and in particular Werner von Braun and his rocket guys to create rockets for NASA, which helped us go to the moon in the 60s. So they basically, the CIA engulfed the Nazi program, took it over, and even though it was corrupt, dirty, immoral, and inhuman, all they did was saying, hey, we can't just let the public see this. So we'll continue this type of stuff under the guise of national security, under the guise of the black operations, and they'll push it underground. So now this gets into the next part. Understanding, another thing that people need to understand is United States black budget. So the United States has a black budget of around $53 billion. Now, let me ask you, ladies and gentlemen, what kind of things and how much research and development could you get done with $53 billion, right? $53 billion is a hell of a lot of money, right? That's like Bezos type money. And all of that money is getting spent into what they label as black operations. Now, black operations, we're going to find out is, this type of stuff. So 53 billion in black operations. Now, 53 billion of the black operations is only the government's money that is legally given to them by the taxpayer. Now, also in the black operations is money that's obtained illegally. Let me give you an example. So Kim Jong-un and the North Koreans, they bring in roughly $50 million a year from illegal activity. So Kim Jong-un runs drugs. He has fake currency sales of United States money. He does hacking, and he does all these other things that are illegal because it helps fund his regime. The United States of America also does this. We know through the Operation Iran-Contra, where the CIA got caught running all the drugs, and Operation Fast and Furious, where they got caught running a bunch of guns. And the reason behind all this is the government's analogy and how they try to justify it is, well, if we don't run the guns, if we don't run the kids, if we don't run the guns, the kids, the drugs, then all the corrupt mafias guys are going to do it. And we need to do it as well, because then we can try to entrap these guys while we're doing it too. We also know that the CIA runs a lot of child porn websites, and their excuse for doing so is, well, we're trying to catch people doing crime, so we got to also do some of the crime ourselves. So $53 billion of your taxpayer goes to fund black budget operations. Probably another $50 billion of that goes into that pool of funding black operations that they get the money from hacking foreign nations, faking currencies, running drugs, running guns, and also prostitution, running the children's. This is what the Epstein was. Epstein was running an operation, a blackmail operation to compromise individuals such as politicians, scientists, people that are in power, and he would compromise them through prostitutes, either of age or underage, whatever the person's kink was into, straight, homosexual, it didn't matter. That's what Jeffrey Epstein's thing was. He was running this operation for these foreign and also local intelligence agencies. And that's why that got hush and why you don't ever hear about it anymore. Because if you dig too much in Epstein, you'll find he's on the payroll of foreign agencies and intelligence groups. So another one I'd also encourage people to look into, a good movie. It's called Lord of War by Nicolas Cage. And it's a movie about him when he's running guns. And he's a small-time gun runner. And at the end of the movie, he gets so big where he's running big amounts of guns, literally warehouses full of guns. And in that movie, you find out, well, once he gets to the big level of running the guns, the people he's doing the deals with are governments. It's one government funding and giving guns to other governments and funding the wars. America will not only fund the rebellions, they'll also fund the enemy, and they'll fund both sides because, chaos in the Middle East or whoever, the more chaos, the better for America. So why does all this matter? All this matters because I'm trying to establish and trying to let people know that your government is not some kind of omnipotent God who does no wrong. They sell children, they sell guns, they sell drugs, everything that's illegal for you to do as an individual. The CIA and these intelligence agencies, including in these black operations, are doing it themselves. So the hypocrisy of it. Now, people always ask me, Matt, where do you get your information? Where are you getting this stuff? How can you say with confidence that Trump is actually going to win? And we're going to segue into the election. How can I say that Trump's going to win? So now I'm going to go through the list of people, and my father should, even if you don't know any of these names, write them down himself. This is who Matthew Hunter gets his information from. So first off, pay attention to General Michael Flynn. General Michael Flynn was the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency. The guy obviously has classified clearance, right? He can see classified documents. He's a three-star general, okay? The guy is the head of the intelligence agency. So when this man speaks, I take it with some oomph. Obviously, he knows what the hell he's talking about. Now, he could also be spinning disinformation. I wouldn't put it past the CIA intelligence agencies to do that. But take it with a grain of salt and take it with some common sense. Next up, look at General Thomas McNinley, I think is his name. Now, he is a retired United States Air Force Lieutenant General who served at the top military positions underneath the Secretary of Defense and the Vice President of the United States. Keep an eye on him. He's also a high-end general. Sidney Powell. Who's Sidney Powell? Sidney Powell is the lawyer to General Michael Flynn. Very important name to pay attention to. Rudy Giuliani. Who's Rudy Giuliani? The former New York City mayor, top prosecutor, and personal lawyer to the Donald Trump president. Steve Bannon. Who's Steve Bannon? Steve Bannon is an American media executive, political strategist, and former investment banker, and a former executive chairman to Breitbart News. He served as the White House chief strategist in the administration of President Donald Trump and in his first 7 months of the Trump team. So Stephen Bannon, he's giving information to Trump. He's helping him run his campaign. So clearly the guy knows what the hell he's talking about, right? And then you got Roger Stone. Who's Roger Stone? Roger Stone's a political consultant since the 1970s. He's worked on campaigns such as Nixon, Reagan, Jack Kemp, Bob Dole, George Bush, and now President Trump, right? So he's worked with a lot of previous presidents, and he's guided them as a political advisor. Roger Stone knows what the hell he's talking about. Who else do we got? We have Miles Guo. Why is Miles Guo an important individual? Miles Guo is a Chinese billionaire businessman who became a political activist and controls Beijing Zenith Holdings, and other assets. So he's a real estate billionaire. At the peak of his career, he was the 73rd richest man in China, okay, under the CCP. Now, Guo has been accused of corruption, misdeeds by the Chinese authority, and he has fled to the United States in 2014. Now, CCP wants him back in his country, and they want his head on a pike. Why? Because he has a hell of a lot of dirt on the CCP. You don't get to be in what's communism? Communism is government control over resources and products, right? So you don't get to be the 73rd richest man in China unless you're working with the CCP, right? Or the CCP is going to come around and go, whoa, you got 73 billion? Take that. We're communists. Let me share that wealth around, right? So clearly, Guo knows what the fuck he's talking about because he's made billions of dollars under the CCP. So he flees, right? He realizes back in the early ages that, you know what? I don't like the CCP. I like being a Chinese person. I like the culture of the Chinese people. And I just don't love the CCP, which is this corrupt regime that rules over the Chinese people. So he flees to the United States of America, and he brings all this knowledge of working hand in hand with the CP with him. And who does he make friends with? Who does he connect with once he lands in America? He connects with Stephen Bannon. Who's Stephen Bannon? Like I just said, he's basically whispering in Trump's ear. So he connects with someone who's connecting with Trump. Also, Steve Bannon is good friends with Rudy Giuliani. Now, why is Guo important? Guo comes over here, Miles Guo, and he realizes, hey, I want to bring down the CCP regime. I have a lot of dirt on these individuals. They're also blackmailing and bribing a lot of your high-end politicians. I have laptops. I have hard drives. I have proof of this stuff. So Steve Bannon, Rudy Giuliani sit back and they go, how can we put this information out? If we put it on Twitter, what's going to happen? It's going to get censored. It's going to get taken down, right? Which is what we've seen when all the Hunter Biden and every kind of leak comes out. So they're smart. Guo then takes his billions of dollars in wealth, works with Steve Bannon as a consultant, and builds his own social media platforms called GTV or G Media. Now they do this, and they do this way before. So let me just rate it. So Guo paid Steve Bannon $1 million for consulting services related to G News in August of 2018 and 2019. So during that year, GTV Media Group, Inc. was founded in New York on April 20th, 2020. So they spend the next couple of years thinking, we need to build the infrastructure so when the election comes up and we need to show the public all how corrupt and how compromised the Hunter Biden family is, that we have the infrastructure in place that information will be able to disseminate through the Chinese, through the intelligence agencies, and through the American population without being on the major platforms of Twitter, Facebook, and all these other ones, because they know it would get censored. So they spend the last couple of years, while everyone else is playing on Twitter and Facebook, pouring money into Gab, pouring money into Parler, pouring money into GTV Media, and building up these alternative media platforms. Smart. It was a good idea because now it's working well for them. So that's another guy to pay attention to, this Guo guy. He's responsible for a lot of the leaks with the Hunter Biden stuff and on his platform, GTV Media. Also, who else do I pay attention to? Devin Nunes, House Intelligence Agency chair, right? California rep. Kash Patel, an Indian American official that works President Trump's National Security Council. Pay attention to that man. Trey Gowdy, the chair of the head of the House Oversight Committee. You have Sebastian Gorka, military and intelligence analyst who served as the deputy assistant to the president in administration President Donald Trump. Tom Fitton, president of Judicial Watch. Mark Meadows, White House chief of staff. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. William Barr, attorney general, right? And you had Attorney General William Barr on CNN months ago telling in a heated argument with the I think it was Andrew Cooper. What's he called? What's fucking stupid name? But the point is, he was on CNN. He was arguing. AG Barr was like, "Listen, this mail-in ballot stuff's ripe for fraud. It's going to be a banana public. It's not going to work." So AG Barr's been calling this stuff out before any of this ever happened. And then, so why does all this matter? I just dropped all these names on you, right? And why I did this is people always ask me, well, Matt, where are you getting your information? Are you just listening to Alex Jones? Are you listening to the conspiracy theory? I'm listening to generals, intelligence committee members of the president's cabinet, as you can see, high-end Chinese billionaire dissidents. So I'm getting my information I'm listening to the intelligence community. I'm listening to the people who are the movers and the shakers, the ones that actually read the classified information that you and the public don't see. And listening to all these individuals has got me to where I am today, and has the understanding that I have today, which is what we're going to get into the American election today and why Trump will win. So all of these individuals, all these intelligence agencies are all saying that this election was ripe for fraud. The mail-in ballots were strategic. Funny too that COVID happens this year. Okay, just pull back for a second. Pull back. Trump's doing amazing. He's winning. The economy's doing awesome. The guy's scoring Super Bowls. He's destined to be reelected because America's winning and is doing so well. All of a sudden, coincidence, right? Woo! The plague sweeps in from China. All of a sudden, this virus gets leaked out, and from the number 2 power, China, who would love to be the number 1 power. And who is China funding? We now know because we have the receipts. They're funding and have compromised and are paying lots of money to the Hunter Biden family. No, they don't. Chinese CCP don't give millions of dollars to the Hunter Biden family unless there's some kind of payment in return. Now, what's the payment they get in return? Is it once Joe Biden becomes president, he says, you know what, I'm not going to be hard on allowing Chinese to build up military bases in the South China Sea. You know what, I'm not going to intervene if China tries to take over Hong Kong, or I'm not going to intervene if they go after Taiwan. So this is what the Chinese are paying for. They're paying for, if Biden gets in, that he'll be compromised, and then he can stand back and allow the Chinese to expand their empire and do all the things that they want to do and creep closer to be the number one superpower. So the American population and the intelligence community and around Trump, they knew this. They knew it was coming. This is why you get Trump months and months in advance saying, guys, the mail-in ballot thing is going to be a disaster. How are you going to keep track of all this stuff? It's ripe for fraud. And another thing I want to get into, and I don't know if Dad's heard about this yet, it's called Hammer and Scorecard. Now, this just the saying those two words right now on Twitter will get you banned. So we'll see.
I've heard the hammer thing just today, just by scrolling through my news feeds on my social media platforms. I kept hearing the hammer thing kept coming.
The hammer. It's all about the hammer. All right. Well, I sent you a video. It was the video that I sent you right before we went live. If you wouldn't mind pulling that up, it's about 30-second video.
You sent it through a message?
Through message, and I'm going to show everyone today
I'm
on
only getting the wiki is the last thing I've got on a message.
Okay, let me forward it to you then. Okay. So I'm going to show you guys in live time Scorecard and Hammer working. Now, what is Scorecard and Hammer? Scorecard and Hammer is a program that the intelligence agency designed as a way to meddle in elections. Now, if you're the United States of America, you're damn right your intelligence agency officers are developing programs. You can mute the video if you want. We don't need any sound on that video.
Oh, you don't?
So,
okay.
No, we don't need any sound.
Okay.
So what you guys are looking at right now, you can see this.
Should I hit play?
No, I'll talk about it first since it's only 30 seconds. So as you're seeing here, we're watching CNN Live. You guys can go watch the replays of yourself and find all this stuff yourself. So pay attention to Andy Bashir, who's the Democratic Party right now. His vote count is 673,948, and he's got a 49.4%, right? He's behind the Republican who's in the lead right now, Matt Bevin, who is 662,235 with a 48.6. Or actually, no, that means Andy's ahead. Click play on the video then.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a little ahead on the video, so it's fine. It'll fix itself here.
Okay.
Wait till it goes back.
Oh, that certainly changed.
Okay, right here. Pause it right here.
Ah, there. Still good? Let me go right here. There we go. Okay. What? Not liking Nancy Pelosi, the Democrats, they win in KK. What the hell is that?
Okay, wait.
Are you seeing that?
What?
Look at this shit. You see that? What is that?
It must be some kind of I think someone's recording this video on, and that's like the CC, to get the read by. Basically, probably what Anderson or someone's saying while they're talking over the clip.
The Democrat, they win in KKK? I asked, what the hell is that? Anyways, go ahead. Okay.
So what you're watching here, I'll play it again.
Here, hold on.
So what? Pay attention. Okay, is that the first of the video or the end of the video? Okay, that's the end of the video. Okay, so 48.5. Okay. Roll back to the first.
Okay.
So he's at Bevin's at. It
right
happens.
Here,
so
it's showing at 661, 675, 48.5%. Bashir is 674, 508 at 49.5%.
Okay, but pull it back to the front there. See, now Bevin's at 6.
662, 235. 661, 675. So it went down.
He went down.
Yeah.
And if you watch it, basically the number that he goes down goes over to the Democrat.
Really? Interesting. 661, 665. Or
See? Okay. So the play that back right when you see the quick switch. So
well,
how
that was
CNN
just replaying.
Yeah.
Okay.
How CNN gathers their data. So the yellow square there is CNN's getting information in real time from these pollsters and these people and stuff like that. And they get that updated information in live time first. And then CNN changes that information to reflect their little bottom ticket there, the thing that scrolls at the bottom. So when you're playing the video, play it again.
Okay.
I think I just clipped the video in a horrible spot here, but oh, did you pause it? Oh, there we go.
No, it's
I want to get it right here. I want this part here where it swaps over. So pull it back just a split second before that swap there where it phases.
Right here?
Yeah, stop it right there.
Yep, stop.
So the information at this point has come in, and CNN's bottom thing hasn't had a chance to update yet. It takes a second. So right in the second, you see on the very top, you see Andy has 673,948. He went to 90. He gained some, right? And Bevan's got the same. Okay, now click play, and you're going to see it swap and change it.
Six 74508 to 6661 now, or 661. Yeah. So the numbers did change there.
Yeah. So there you go. So as you that's a perfect screenshot. So as you can see, you got Bevan down there. He's at 662. The new data just came in on their screen, and you have Bevan up top. He loses votes, and it gets swapped over to the Democrat guy. Now, what you're seeing at is hard to understand because it happens so fast. When you're watching it in real time, it literally happens instantaneous. They cut away, it updates, boom, and they come in the new numbers. Now, this is a small representation of what this program is. So I'm going to explain it to you. And when I say this information, it's coming from generals. Generals are telling me that this program exists. So here's this general. He's explained the term Hammer and Scorecard is a pair of programs that initially designed for the CIA before being privatized by the deep state players for the Obama administration. The Hammer is a counterintelligence surveillance program used to spy on activities and project networks like voting machines without detection, while Scorecard is a vote manipulation application that changes votes during the transfer. So this is a dual program. Hammer, the idea of Hammer is intelligence agencies found it valuable to kind of collect metadata before the election happens and to be able to use that metadata through the algorithms to kind of figure out who's going to win. We see this with with all the projections of what media companies do anyway. When so many of the votes are in and they could say, we're going to project that Joe Biden wins because he's up by so many. Well, the intelligence agency have the same programs that can calculate these projections and these algorithms, but theirs are way more advanced. So they were running these programs and these algorithms before the election actually happened. And they realized that, holy crap, Trump's going to win in a landslide. So then they implemented Hammer with Scorecard, these two programs, during the election night. And these two programs, what they do is they instantaneously, in the voting machines, can change the votes. They can now make you go from you voted for Trump, now make you vote for Biden. And where do I get this information? Once again, I'm telling you, I get this information from, let me get the exact general's name. I'll spell it out for you guys. It's General Thomas, Thomas, last name McLeod, Rney. He is a retired United States Air Force Lieutenant General who served at the top military positions at the Secretary of Defense. Okay. You can find videos on YouTube. They're very hard to find. They're getting deleted. And same with Sidney Powell are talking now in the public eye about this program called Scorecard and the Hammer. So you're going to now see all this. Now, people are asking me, how come the day that they said that Joe Biden won, Trump was out playing golf? Now, that seemed funny to some people, right? But that's Trump letting all the patriots know, don't worry, man. Let the media call Biden the winner right now, because the media can't call the presidency, right? He's still technically not the president. Trump is still technically the president. And Trump has now filed all the lawsuits and found all the all the flaws in the voting system. You know, and when I say fraud, it's fraud on multi levels. It's not just the typical fraud of they threw some ballots in the dumpster that were Trump supporters. It's not just the typical fraud of them physically maybe signing a bunch of ballots as one person and sending them out. It's not the ballot harvesting. You know, it's, you know, the media also for the last 3-4 years has said Trump bad, Trump bad, Trump bad. Here's another thing to realize, that everyone that voted for Joe Biden got the highest votes in any president in history, more than Obama, more than Trump, which is insane because we don't see Biden filling up rallies with a whole bunch of supporters, right? He doesn't have a grassroots movement. So anyone that voted for Biden, half of America, only voted for the man because they hated Trump. Let's be honest, right? Because if they didn't vote for the guy because they hated Trump and they truly like Biden, then when the Democrat Party was coming up with whoever was going to be their headmaster to run against Trump, Biden and Kamala Harris were they were scoring low. They were only getting a few percentage points. It was Bernie Sanders and some of these other people who were winning overwhelmingly in the Democratic Party. But then at the end of the Democratic Party run, it comes out to be, it goes to Joe Biden. So understanding that if half America did go out and vote, it wasn't a vote for, we love Joe Biden and we love that man's policies. It was, we hate Trump so much, we have to vote him out when we'll take whatever the alternative is. But all that Trump hatred is propaganda. You know, the Russia collusion, he's racist, all that kind of stuff are just programs being run from foreign agencies, whether it's the Communist Manifesto, the Deep State, and all these other divide and conquer intelligence agency tactics that are used to get their own puppet in place, which is Joe Biden. So let me pass it off to you for a second, let you talk some.
Oh, that very, very kind of you. I really appreciate that. No, I'm just kidding. But, you know, actually, the more you actually explain and talk about this stuff, the more I realize is, how much I wish that government was so needless, so unaccepted, so not respected that none of this shit, like, none of this should mean anything to me. It really, really shouldn't. But unfortunately, that's the sad part of this modern world we live in. Now, historically, it was the dogma of the religious aspects, so Christianity or fucking Buddhism or Islam, or these were, and actually today it still has a dominant role. I get people are still very dogmatic in that aspect, but the state has now taken center stage. The state, the belief in some asshole or some bitch or some cunt or some prick being your ruler has now superseded and takes precedent even over God, right? Government has replaced God. And even hearing people talking about government and politicians and leaders and rulers, it really fucking sickens me, because I just can't help but think that that's just a human being. And if you knew that person, whether you're talking about Trump or Biden, Kamala, the fucking whatever Harris, or fucking I just can't help but point out that these are all fallible fucking people that you would never give. Chances are you'd probably never give them the chance to fucking watch over your garden in your backyard, right? But the problem is today is we still have this fucking, not me. I've fought for many years to break free from this indoctrinated mindset where I just got to yield and conform to, like I say, religious dogma or political dogma. But this is the world that we live in today, folks. And this is the thing I think is the most important thing, is no matter who wins or loses, and of course I hope Trump, mostly for the poking in the eye thing, as I've explained before, wins. But it really just comes back to me once again is why the fuck are millions or ultimately hundreds of millions or billions of people willing to allow these dipshits to have so much sway over every aspect of their political, social, or economic fucking life? To me, it's mind blowing. It really, really is, because all these underlying things and the fact that you even have to explain it, and Matt did a great job. I'll just say, Matt, you did an exceptional job of explaining all this stuff. But once again, to me, it's like explaining, the intricate details of how shit comes out of my ass. At the end of the day, does it matter anything? No, the shit comes out of my ass. That's really all I care about at the end of the fucking day. But because you have to dig into the details, you have to cover this stuff so extensively. All this does actually to me is bring me back to my Larkin Rose days, where it's like, yeah, fuck politics, fuck this shit, fuck picking rulers, fuck conforming to any bullshit. Because I'm telling you, all this political bullshit, it really does. It destroys my faith in humanity to the point where it's like watching two really inept, I don't know, parents, cousins, uncles, aunts talk about shit that like red's the best color in the world. No, blue's the best damn color in the world. And yeah, whoever gets fucking in charge of that is like, well, we got to destroy the fact that there's red as a color, or there's got to be destroy the fact there's blue as a color. At the same time, it's like, well, can't we all just kind of have our own preferences, do things our own way, live our lives how we see fit, get back to the basics of, hey, as long as I'm not causing any harm to anyone else, why don't you just leave me the fuck alone and get out of my goddamn face in my life? But this is the world that we live in today, where we got to care about this shit as to who wins the U.S. election. 1776. I mean, that's the year that the U.S. was founded. And you know what? They set up that document. The Constitution is like, we're hoping that you'll never have to really give a fuck who wins elections, because we set it up so there's so much division of powers that no one is going to be able to overrule or override your inherent freedoms or your inalienable freedoms. But that's not the world that we live in today, right? All of our freedoms are all sacrificed at the altar of the state, of the religion of statism. And now we have to either bow to and accept whatever our political leaders are. Is it Team Red? Oh, well, we better bow to Team Red because they'll carry our favor and they'll stroke our backs and our egos. Or is it Team Blue? Oh, if Team Blue gets in power, well, we better forget about Team Red. Now we got to go and bow. I'm so tired of bowing. My fucking back is getting sore from having to worry about bowing to any of these dipshits. That's the part that all I've taken away from this is not all the intricate details, and I get it. And you definitely put in the work and the effort, and I totally get it. But this shit drives me nuts that I should even have to worry about this stuff. I'm an adult. I would rather, to be honest with you, I'd rather just someone say, here's a rifle, go off into battle, and hopefully you make it out alive. Because that's actually more inspiring than fucking listen to political bullshit of that. I got to be holding myself, whether it's someone from team left or team right, and I just got to sacrifice myself at that fucking ridiculous altar. That's really what it comes down to me is I don't want anyone to believe in this shit anymore. And that's what I've been spending most of my recent years is like, can we stop fucking playing this dogma? Like, I just don't care. I don't care about Team A, Team B. I don't care about Catholicism or Protestants. I think they're both a bunch of fucking idiots. But this is the world we live in today. Everybody wants to pick and be tribal. Like the guys at work I was saying today. To me, this is akin to the Montreal Canadiens and the Toronto Leaf fans fighting and bickering over who's the best. You know what? They both suck. They both suck balls. Not one of them have ever won anything. Not one of them have ever fucking done anything that's even meaningful. And as long as I've been alive, but everyone will still, hey, trust me, if you get a Montreal fan and a Toronto Maple Leafs fan in the same fucking arena, they're going to be fighting, bickering tooth and nail over shit that in their personal life shouldn't mean anything. It shouldn't mean anything. It's just a hockey game. It's just a couple teams playing a fucking sport. But this is what it is. Not just at the sport level where you can turn the channel or just turn off the TV entirely, but this is stuff that affects every aspect of our, like I say, social and economic lives. And this is the world that we live in. So I'll just say that as my first initial thought, but we really should, like I say, get into this whole, about the political fallout, the results, and what this is going to mean for all of us, not just Americans, but Canadians and everyone in this goddamn world, what this all means. Because at the end of the day, I think what this really is doing to people is the exact opposite of what Ron Paul tried to do, which is to get us to stop thinking about politics as being so important. Right now, we're all caring about politics way more than we really should.
Yeah, but you're expecting, we've walked our whole life and now you're asking us to learn to crawl. You know, we've had politics rule over the human psyche way back in the Roman eras. And, you know, if anything, now it's gotten more sophisticated and smarter, right? They learned from the Romans. They learned from the Egyptians.
Which is why I'm like,
from the British.
No, I get you, which is why more and more every day I'm like, Elon, get that fucking rocket ship ready, buddy, because I'm ready to go to Mars anytime. Because I'm ready to leave this fucking goddamn planet behind as quickly as humanly possible. Because the people are so beyond fucked that I feel that I can't really live and navigate in this world much longer. I really can't, because people are too dogmatic. I think of myself now today as being Galileo during the time where everyone thought that the Ptolemaic system was real, the earth was the center of the universe, and all that crazy mystical shit that has all been proven to be fucking absolute farcical and as not even in touch with human reality at all. That's how I feel today, where it's like, please, just somebody get me, listen, I'll pay double price. Just get me on that flight the fuck off this planet. So that's
okay, let me ask you this though. Would you consider it safe to say that 90% of people around the globe go through some kind of public school?
Oh, for sure. Oh, they're all fucking a bunch of they're dogmatists. Humans have been, which is so weird, because after the Enlightenment era, it's like, are we supposed to get away from that stuff? Apparently not.
What I mean, though.
Now we've dug ourselves so far deep into it, nobody can think critically about anything anymore. But anyways, I know.
Yeah, from kindergarten to grade 12, you're taught to raise your hand and go to the bathroom. You're taught structure and control, and you're not taught anything political. You're just taught about how to work in the workforce once you leave at a school and find a job. So I got the frustration of people like me and you, because I suffer it too. But I've come to the realization that government's not going away, and you're not convincing people that taxation is theft. I've come to the conclusion now that the only way
which is why I just want to avoid society entirely.
Well, no, but look at it like this. Look at Sparta in Greece in the movie 300, and look at the Persians as authoritarian governments. The only way we're going to exist.
Oh, if the Persians, and actually, when you talk about that stuff, if the Persians, Trump, Biden, anyone shows up my fucking goddamn doorstep in my yard on my property, oh, you best believe then you're going to see. Because now all the gloves are off. Fucking I'm ready to throw down because you've now infringed on my gut. But I'm also, like I say, I recognize that I live in this world where everyone wants to play this dogmatic game. It's like, no, I can escape to my own little safe space. It's called my private property. It's called my private mind. It's called my own life. But the further people encroach on it, like I say, there's at some point in time the line gets drawn, and my line is, if you keep encroaching on my own fucking personal space and you constantly want to impose your bullshit on me, that's when you're going to see the retaliatory force. And I've got some to offer. I've got it on hand. As a matter of fact, I've been stockpiling it for years now. And once I release it, it's going to have a fucking amazing amount of energy. It's going to be a big giant spring compressed, because I'm really fucking sick and tired of it all, to be honest with you. But it is what it is. I know that the most important thing for me as an adult, live in this world, keep your own mental psychology as healthy as humanly possible. Let everyone else in the world go as fucking retarded as they want, because at the end of the day, it'll be the last man standing. And I want to be that one that's kept my mind, kept my mental, physical, and all the other things at least a level 1 or 2 notches above most people, so that when they come at me or come for me, well, it's going to take quite a few of them to fucking seal the deal. That's all I'm saying.
What I think is the only solution, and what I've been calling for a long time, is the only way that we're actually going to achieve anything we want to achieve when it comes to principles of freedom and liberty is you need to have the patriots. We need to all move, choose a state, choose a city, choose somewhere. All of us move into that one area and hunker down and say, listen, this is our free land. This is how we run the society over here. Fuck off. That's the only way that it's ever going to happen. And, you're not going to sit here. I think the patriots were too spread out. If the armies rolled in, if the gulag camps were ready and they were to take us away, there would be resistance. Yeah, but we're so spread out, man. Like, we need to be more, look at these electoral maps and be like, which areas voted overwhelmingly?
I still think we're outnumbered, though.
What?
I actually still believe that's the thing is, as much as I have a lot of tremendous respect for Trump and what he's trying to do in terms of that stuff, and I get the whole 3D or 4D chess. I just every piece of evidence that's ever come to light to me has completely solidified and reinforced what my initial beliefs is, and not based on my own personal analytical experience, but extrapolating everything that I've learned over the 10 years that I've been dealing with this stuff. Is no, people are always about themselves. As much as people pretend that they're altruistic or benevolent in some way, it's always about what the fuck can I get out of life for me. And because of that, and that's a human reality. That's human nature. That's actually just nature, right? That's how nature thrives and survives, which is why I don't play this game where it's like we're all going to get this point where we're going to be singing Kumbaya. There's a reason why prior to any an era throughout history where there was some semblance of freedom, it was always preceded by some massive civil unrest, death, pain, and devastation. That's the only, as far as I'm concerned, the only way we ever get out from underneath this stuff is not talking amongst each other. I wish, fuck do I ever wish, that if we could all just put our dogma aside and just talk like humans to each other, have a little mutual respect, then all that stuff would work. All that libertarian stuff that I hold near and dear would all work. But at the end of the day, no, people are very selfish, and that's just what it is. All people are selfish because it's all about self-preservation. And the only way to ever counter that and make sure that everybody stays in their lane and backs off and stays in their corner is massive pain. Pain has to be so omnipresent and such a direct influence in people's lives, like, oh, I won't step outside of my bounds because I realize the minute I do, there's a fucking goddamn electrical fence that's going to zap me hardcore. But people today are like, hey, I've stepped my foot, my entire leg, I've stepped my entire body over the boundaries, and nothing has happened to me so far. So I'm going to push it even further. And that's the world that we live in. Everyone wants to keep pushing the boundaries further and further and further away from anything that remotely resembles mutual respect and just accept and live that live mentality. So I, to be honest with you, I want Trump to win, but at the same time, maybe, just fucking maybe, what the world truly needs is Biden and Kamala Harris and all those dirty motherfucking collectivists to actually take us down the road that's going to be so painful, so bumpy of a ride, so abrasive that it's the only thing that emboldens people to finally stand up for themselves. Because so far, I feel like I've been living in a state of limbo for the last decade plus, where both sides aren't even willing to truly put all cards on the table and challenge their opponents fully in a genuine battle of wits. Today, it's all about playing politics. It's all about a popularity contest. And like I say, I just don't see how humanity, even right now, the divide. I mean, just like I was saying before we even went live. Look at it. The Biden campaign, they all spent, and the media fucks, they spent the last 4 years deriding Trump. And hey, let's not forget about Clinton's fucking bullshit rhetoric. Half of Trump's supporters are a bunch of deplorables, right? I mean, how the fuck do you get beyond the point of like pretending that we're all going to be showing some unity now, right? When you've literally spent the last 4 years doing everything you could to poke your eyes in, literally not just poke your finger in the eye, I mean, but like hopefully these people have been trying to poke their finger not just in Trump, but the American people and what the people on the right believe, to the point where they could stab them in their brain. And then now they're like, but let's be friends. Really? We're going to be friends after you've literally tried to fucking stab me in my brain? That's not going to work out too well. But this is the world that we live in today, which is why, like I say, I don't see how this plays out. I've seen, like I say, in my personal life, I've never had one time, I don't even remember one time where we've all just sat down, said, you know what, we're all going to do the right thing. We're going to show mutual respect for each other. I've been lucky to do that with one member of my family at a time. And now, like I say, put that on not just a small scale, like in an inter-family thing, but on a huge where there's millions of people involved. I just don't believe anything changes until, like I say, everyone has had to suffer so tremendous because of their stupidity and playing these kind of tribalistic fucking games and this dogma that constantly reinforces how they think about things in the world. I think that is the only thing. Unfortunately, I think as much as I'm not a fan of revolutions, or civil conflicts, I can't help but think that's the only way anything ever gets changed. And why do I think that? Because I've observed that in my own fucking life. The only time anything has ever changed is after a lot of really hardships have had to be suffered. And I don't want that. I'm just like you, and I'm just like everyone else. I wish we could skip those few fucking steps along the way and just get to the point where we're all respecting each other and just you do you and I'll do me. I just don't see how that's going to happen, especially after the way this election process is played out.
Yeah, for sure. And any kind of foreign parties, including the CCP, who's paid for Hunter Biden and his father, Joe Biden, they would be like you. They wouldn't even mind a civil war or civil revolution. Because think about it. If you're in China and you have the Trump guys over here and you have the Democrats over here, and all of a sudden this year and the next couple of years, we decide to go in a full-blown civil war and a bunch of people get murdered and killed, which would be horrible. Let's say the Patriots come out on top, but they lost 10% casualties. Let's say the Democrats have a total sweep. Let's say 20 to 100 or whatever the odds are. The CCP looks back and say, well, look, they just got rid of half of the population over there for us, and even some of their own. So now it's less of an army we got to roll in and conquer. So the CCP and those who are looking at America as, we want to get in there and take it over, they don't care. They don't care if we tear ourselves apart and everything.
They want that.
They want it. They encourage it.
Of course. That's what people who are miserable in their own lives. That's another thing I've observed my whole life. People who are miserable in their own lives, and like I say, extrapolate that and expand it out to the societal level. And when you live under authoritarian dictatorships or collectivism, where you're constantly told that you're nothing except you got to sacrifice your individuality to the collective, those people have no fucking sense of real meaning or of self-ownership or respect or dignity. So it's like it's always about tearing other people down. And actually, I just want to bring this up real quick, Matt. So because Brent, we have had some disagreements in the past, and at this point in time, I'd be like with Brent, I'd have a great articulated argument to rebut what he's saying here. But I'm just going to say this, Brent. Honestly, this is why a libertarian can never be an intellectual. Too egotistical and barbaric. You know what, Brent? Then you know what? Let me just tell you, man. Don't worry about us libertarians. I mean, I don't even know why you would be overly concerned. You're basically admitting that libertarians, we can't be intellectual, we can't be effective, and we're nobodies. So why do you fucking care? It's not like I have any power as a libertarian, right? So why do you even care? Right? I don't understand why people have a hate on for libertarians. To me, it's kind of akin to based on the way he's talking. It's like, so what? Are you trying to pick on an autistic? Okay, so there are people that might think differently from you and all that. But what's the point? It's not like libertarians are in power, right? So what is your issue with libertarians? That would be my biggest question is, why do people have so much hatred and loathe libertarians? There are people that are saying self-ownership, I own me, property rights, whatever you produce and provide in society, that's yours, right? Because you made it, you created it. And the non-aggression principle, don't use preemptive force. So if that's a bad thing, Brent, then I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't know if you want to decide with the authoritarians, the people that are on the opposite side of that equation, then just do it. And stop playing the middle ground. Stop playing these games. I tell you the truth, I'd be more respectful if you just said, I love me some Nazism, or I love me some communism, or I love me some aggression. I love war. I love conflict. If you did that, I would actually have respect for you, because then it's like, well, this is a man that's willing to stand behind his convictions. I don't understand why. I've never understood why people have a hate on, just like people that were like anti-Jesus, right? What was so fucking bad about Jesus? What the hell did Jesus do that was so terrible? Well, other than not laying fucking cover for authoritarians, other than telling the truth, other than giving people a good semblance or sense of morality. So if that's a bad thing, then I don't mind being, placed in that category or equated in that way. But I'm just saying, at the end of the day, I can exit stage left and you won't have to never hear another word about me. The difference is, Brent, once us libertarians exit stage left, all you've got at the end of the day is you dipshits playing WWE, but in the real world, right? So go ahead and do that. I don't really give a fuck, because as far as I'm concerned, the left and right could all kill themselves and kill each other tomorrow, and I'll be sitting back here eating popcorn, the good kind, enjoying the spectacle. So that's all I got to say about this shit with people that have a hate on for libertarians. Like, then go on to the full-on authoritarianism stuff. Because I like a little excitement just like the next guy. And I'm not worried about if society breaks down, that I'm the one that's going to be, I'm scared because I won't be. I've been the kind of person that have always been able to defend myself. And I'll be that same guy. So I just like I said, I just don't understand what's up with the hate with the libertarians. But let's get back to the topic at hand.
Well, I look at America today as America in 1776. That's why I put my name in it, and why I've been sticking with that number now. Is you have history is written by the winners. Okay, folks, history is written by the winners. So you have in 1776, you have a third of Americans are like, we don't want to be ruled by the British. You have a third of Americans are like, we want to be ruled by the British. And you have a third of Americans who are useless feeders who could care less to even care about politics. They're just trying to mow their fields and live on about their life, like you said. We have America today, and we have the freedoms we have today because those third who are ambitious said, I don't care what the third who oppose me, and I don't care about the third that are in the way. We know what's right. We know how to build a society. We know the morals and principles we stand on are more moral than our opponents, and we're going to take up the mantle and do what needs to be done. And anyone that gets in the way, you're just cannon fire. That is the only way, unfortunately. That's the only way, unfortunately, things are going to get done. And when I get back to, I think we need 1 million patriots. Choose somewhere in Canada for Canada. Choose somewhere in America for America. Choose a state. Choose a province. We all move into that one area, and we hold up. Because that's the only way that anything's going to change and anything happens. That's not calling for offensive violence. That means you choose a state, you hold up in the state, and when they bring in the forced vaccines, when they bring in the things that are the violations of the non-aggression principle, you defend yourself. And that's the only way that anything's ever going to change with human psychology, okay? The winners. Alexander didn't expand his empire by asking the Persians to give up new land. He didn't roll into Egypt and say, can I have some of it? Can we negotiate? Okay, the map of the world is shaped by force and people that are ambitious and willing to do what's right. So, and this is what I think is what's happening in the Patriot movement.
Oh, we can't say that. We're on social media, so we can't. So that's the thing with libertarians is we have to speak, in a manner that's honest, forthright, but doesn't get ourselves in trouble as well. So I think the most important thing that libertarians need to express to people is the importance of. And I think this is where people get confused with some libertarians, me in particular, is yes, I always say non-aggression principle stuff, but that also doesn't mean, Matt's my son, if you want to ask him. I don't usually aggress towards people just willy-nilly, but by the fuck, ask him if you fuck with me, just or just look through my history. It's not that hard to find people I've known and ask them, the people that have ever fucked me, if I've ever defended myself, right? It's like, no, I'm very good at it. That's actually the reason why I'm not so aggressive most of the time is because I'm fully confident in my abilities and my skills, which means that even if you fuck with me, I might allow you to step over that line a few times even. I'm a really nice guy most of the time. But once you've crossed that line to the point where I do retaliate, you're not going to like how that turns out. That's the part. What I'm really trying to do most of the time as a libertarian is saying, just don't keep pushing me back into the corner because you're not going to like what you see when I'm actually backed in the corner. That's what a proper libertarian should be. Not someone that's saying, oh, I just don't like violence. No, I don't mind violence. Matter of fact, sometimes it's kind of cool. Sometimes, especially if someone's trying to fuck with you, violence can be great if someone's using violence against you, right? Retaliatory violence is a great thing when someone's trying to use it against you preemptively. So I'm not against violence. But as a libertarian, what a proper libertarian is, what a proper stance of a libertarian is, I won't use it initially. I'll let you make the fucking first swing, but if I see your fucking hand headed towards my fucking face, I might be quick enough. I might have a quick enough reaction time, even though you might have started the swing first. Well, I might be the first one to fucking knock your ass out. So that's all I'm saying. I'm more than willing to turn the cheek, right? Or actually not turn the cheek, but I'm more than willing to walk away from any disagreement we may have, as long as you're willing to do the same thing. But the further you want to encroach on my freedoms and my liberties, like I say, at some point in time, all these fucks are going to realize there's a reason why history is always about conflict, because people will not back down entirely. People that have strength and resiliency and courage will not just constantly fucking allow people to overstep their bounds. That's what it is at the end of the day. And you know what? As much as people don't like Trump, You should respect the fact that at least the man has not gone the authoritarian way that so many people predicted. I mean, how many fucking dipshits on the left said the minute Trump got in power that it was basically he's going to shave his fucking, or not shave because he doesn't have much facial hair anyways, but was going to put on his little mustachio, right? And become the modern day fucking reiteration of Hitler. Never happened. Never happened. Right? But doesn't mean that it can happen. Doesn't mean that some American people who did support Trump, who tried to do it the peaceful way, who tried to do it in a way is like, okay, we don't want to go down to the Civil War. We don't want to create a revolution, but we got to get back where you need to respect me. Right? That's what Trump is. The Trump presidency, to be honest with you, it was a litmus test. Are you going to respect your opponents? Even though you hate them, even though you loathe them, are you going to respect your opponents when they fucking win? And the left showed nope. And they spent the last 4 years constantly with the Russian collusion, with the fucking goddamn impeachment process, with the constant insult, derision, and degradation of all of Trump's supporters. And now, like I say, the audacity of these fucking people, now that their man has not necessarily won, but they believe that he's won. And now they have the audacity to say, oh, now let's be friends. Now let's show some unity, goddamn. It's like, really though? Really though? Like I say, after you've spent the last 4 years poking me in the fucking eye every time you got a chance, now you want us to be all friends and we're all just going to show unity. Yeah, that's not going to work out, dude. Anyways, anyways, let me just pass it back to Matt because I'm really frustrated about this whole situation.
Well, I would ask you, Dad, living where you're at right now, if the Chinese or the authoritarian Canadian government rolled in and wanted to put on a bunch of mandates, you'd put up a decent resistance, but do you feel confident in the location that you live in that you got enough patriots surrounded you to put up a decent resistance? Probably not.
Do. No, I actually do. Because I think there are a bunch of dipshits, a lot of them. But I think if the time actually did come, there's enough people in the sticks as opposed to people in the city that would, and they have the skills. That's actually one thing I love about rural people is they have the skills and they will, I think, because they're kind of used to their little bubbles that they live in, right? They don't have to deal with a whole lot in rural communities. It's quite minimal in comparison to the big suburbs or the urban type of lifestyle. I think, people in the country, as long as, but see, most of them can get through lives and not have to worry about much. But I think if it gets to the point where it's actually big government is so encroaching and infringing on their own personal rights.
Let me word it another way. What if Monday they come to your house and want to take you away for not?
Oh no, they'll let me go.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, you might have some patriots that live around you, but what I'm saying is they pick you up Monday, they pick the other guy up Wednesday, they pick the other guy up. And that's what I see in it's a problem.
Oh yeah, no, that could happen.
When you're watching the protest movement, you see police officers just constantly rolling in and arresting people without any kind of resistance. People going, oh my God, don't take oh my God, he's arresting that guy. And it's so absurd to watch because it's like, that's kind of like what I see as libertarians on a grand scheme. We're having our rights taken away every day. We're calling it out. We're arguing about the philosophy of how it's wrong what they're doing, but we're not organized. One thing about our enemy, Antifa, the deep state, the authoritarians.
Oh, they're very very organized.
They're organized. They're prepared. They have battle strategies. All these other things. We do not. Because we're libertarians, we're individualists. We all just, I'm over here on my property. I'm over here on my property. That's not going to work. When the revolution kicks off, if you don't have your army in place, you're just going to get picked off. This is what the Chinese do.
Yeah, but that means everyone else is going through their hell too. That's the thing. As much as libertarians, and I agree with you 100%, man. You're right on the money, actually. What you're saying right there now, you're so true. And that's actually one of the pitfalls with libertarianism and why I don't expect they're ever going to win any elections because, they're not collectivists. They're decentralized. They're too independent. You're absolutely right about that. And I would say that is definitely detrimental in some regards. But it also means that they're going to be the last ones. I firmly believe that they're going to be probably the last ones that they'll truly come for because there's too much at stake for the government to come after. I'm just going to use myself for an example. For them to come after me hardcore, there's a lot at stake because I'm not just some loser that is going to take my grievance out willy-nilly and sacrifice everything that I've ever worked for my whole life for just 1 second and lose that battle or that war ultimately. No, No, I refuse to do that. I believe there's a lot of libertarians out there that think the same way. So they'll leave us probably till the end, which is why I've never even had any of my. This is so weird. I've never had any of my social media pages. I've never had any restrictions. I did have one video on YouTube that said there was hateful content, but other than that, and I've talked about a lot of controversy. I think they're saving me because people don't care about me enough, so they save me for last because I don't have any voice, I don't have any influence, I don't have any sway in a grand way. But at the same time, they realize if they fuck with me, I could be one of those people that would be a martyr because I don't have anything in my background. If put it this way, if the media or the political class or the propagandists fuck with someone like me too much and put a big focus or a spotlight on me, there's nothing in my background that they can use too much to throw against me. So that's why most of the time people like me, they prefer to just ignore me or to suppress me. Because if the spotlight ever comes on me, I think I'm one of those people on the planet that not only could they turn into a martyr, but someone that people will actually respect. The more people learn about me, more they would respect me for being an actual, not like and you know, Matt, I've never been in the public sector. I've never been political, right? Other than like the PBC, the only party I've ever supported my whole life. And the only reason why that was just to show the people that you need to challenge the status quo in the establishment. And Canadian people showed me that now they're unwilling to do so. So I was like, well, I'm backing away from the political process immediately because I realized that my initial thoughts were proven correct, that politics isn't what changes things. Politics, is taken around the edges, but you still end up with the same kind of authoritarianism. The only way you change things is to completely disengage or, once again, not just show your teeth, but you might have to sink them into something once in a while. And that's the part, like I say, I try to avoid. I don't like to talk about it because the minute you start talking about it, the media, these social media platforms, they're all like, oh, he's advocating violence. In reality, I'm not, and never would I. But I will say once again, I don't advocate for violence, but I will bring it if someone brings it to me first. And if they bring it to me first, I got to tell you, I'm very competitive. So I'm going to want to if you bring violence to me, I'm going to bring violence back to you, but I'm going to want to win, right? I'm going to want to win. So it's not going to turn out very good for either of us. This is the part that I can't help understand about these people that are on the left. Is like, yeah, I get you fucks think that you can, be preemptively violent at times, but you don't realize that your opponents or people that you're trying to fuck with have that same capacity within them. Like, it's so weird that people think that they're just going to be the ones that have the monopoly of violence and no one else is going to be willing to stand up for themselves. Well, there are some of us who will, because it's really the only thing that keeps us going at the end of the day is knowing that I'm not going to succumb to being a slave or a sacrificial lamb for some ruling class or a bunch of authoritarians.
So let me try to give everyone some optimism here.
Mm-hmm.
So the people
and we still haven't talked about the campaign.
Yeah, well, I'm going to talk about the campaign. I'm going to give everyone some optimism, including you right now, because I see you're taking it pretty bad here. You're thinking that we're headed all towards civil war. So let me explain it to you.
I'm having a hard time.
The best thing that could happen right now is the election being tight. Why? Because now it is drawn that line in the sand. The Trump supporters, the people that I've listed today, are not going to allow Joe Biden to be put into office. So now we have a deadline. We have a line in the sand finally as libertarians. The line in the sand is the day that they try to go in there and physically remove Donald Trump from the office. That's the line in the sand. And patriots that I listen to have already said they're planning million-man marches, and they ain't going to allow that to happen. And when I say people I'm listening to, Michael Flynn's, Sidney Powell's, A.G. Barr, Roger Stone, Miles Guo, Devin Nunes. These guys know his story. They're not stupid. You don't get to be a 3-star general. You don't get to be the House committee if you're too stupid. And people say, well, what about Adam Schiff? You saying he's smart? He is. He's just evilly smart. He plays off that he's stupid, but he's very smart. He knows what he's doing. He's screwing over the American population. So all these people are pretty good at decent intelligence. And they're not going to allow – Trump now realizes that if I concede, if I give in and I let what they want happen, that means China comes in, they own Biden, and America loses all of its values. Trump also has his own kids living in America. None of these patriots have nowhere else to go. A.G. Barr, Devin Nunes, Kash Patel, Trey Gowdy, Sebastian. None of these guys have anywhere else to go. They're extremely red in what's coming down the bandwagon. So they're now, as libertarians, as the Trump supporters and all that, we use violence as an absolute last resort. Because unlike Antifa, when you flick the switch for the righties and they decide to use violence, it's not smashing out Chase Bank windows. It's going after strategic targets at the head of the snakes and taking out people.
It's not going
to
be
Trump
pretty.
now is probably wargaming this stuff. And I think what's going to happen is Trump realizes that no matter what I've done in the last 4 years, the media hated me anyway. I could have made peace in the Middle East, which he did, and the media still hated me. So Trump is finally realizing that no matter what he does out of what's going to happen here, he's going to be hated or loved. But he's caring about his own individual people. He's caring for when he goes to his rallies and he has 20, 30,000 people chanting, I love you. I love you. And he feels that emotion of all these patriots in the room with him. And now they're realizing that this is it. There's no going back, and it's only forward. So as much as you say, oh, it's doom and gloom, it's doom and gloom, it's doom and gloom, I'm glad because Trump's there, and I don't think he's going to hand the position of power off to Biden. What I see happening is they're either going to prove that it's voter fraud, Trump's going to win that way, or Lord forbid they actually try to remove him physically. Trump's got 90% of the police and the military that voted for the guy. So then you're going to go and ask the enforcing class, the police, the military, can you go arrest the president? We're going to put in Biden. When all the intelligence agencies, like I just said, all these high-end people, they know about Scorecard. They know about Biden's laptop, Anthony Weiner's laptop, Hillary Clinton's laptop, General Flynn and all the other patriots that got unmasked. You got Project Mockingbird, Milgram, COINTELPRO, Firefly, Lockstep, Social Credit Score, Communist Manifesto. We all know this stuff now. It's in the public, and Trump goddamn knows it because you can tell just by listening to his speeches. So he knows. And now I think what I want to see Trump to do is send out the order 66, like in Star Wars. Send the order out, go and arrest all the traitors in the country, the deep staters, and do what needs to be done to them. Trump actually has a lot of. Here's what I think that the intel communities come with Trump with. They say, listen, sir, you can either go and arrest them all right now and give us the order, and we could try to prosecute them and put them in jail, or you can do if you're scared to do that because the media is saying you're going after your political opponents. That's fine, Trump. You can stay out of it, but you're only going to have more blood on your hands if you don't do something now. Because if he goes and rounds up the Hillary Clintons and the intel community goes and arrests all these corrupt foreign Chinese CCP infiltrators and all these other people that are swamp creatures throughout the government, if they do that now when the election's leading up to it, before they take Trump out, then at least these people are held in cages and we can kind of deal with them. But if they don't, and Trump doesn't make that move, you know, everyone, including me and the Patriot Movement, is saying, see, Trump, you had the moment to send the military out and arrest these people. We have the Hunter Biden laptop. We have the Hillary Clinton emails. We have the Weiner laptop. So it's not like you say, well, we don't have proof of this stuff. We have the proof. The intel community will tell you in their own words, we've seen it. We watched we watched the insurance file on Anthony Weiner's laptop. It made us throw up. It's disgusting. Rudy Giuliani says the laptop from hell. The guy's prosecuted a lot of sick stuff. So for Rudy to say laptop from hell, clearly nasty stuff. So the Patriots and the Trump movement, we know, and this is why, even though the election got called for Biden, I still smoked my cigar in victory, and I still walk today very optimistic and confident because the Patriots will not allow Trump to be removed.
Just said it right there.
And Trump's not going to allow himself to be removed because if he does, he knows that it's going to lead to mass bloodshed of his own people, his selling out his own family and his own lineage and everything that America stands for. So if anything, this is great. Like Alex Jones says all the time, the deep state's finally unmasked. 10 years ago, as libertarians, we're trying to, hey, government's a predatory agency, keep an eye on it. Hey, government's spying on you, put the Kleenex over your laptop camera because they're looking at you. All these things 10 years ago, the public would say, what are you talking about? Now, finally, half of America realizes, whoa, they're going to put in a guy who's got his son is literally abusing sexually his own children and is compromised and is taking money from the CCP. We have the receipts. So you got to remember, Trump won. Half of America voted for the man. So he already has the army in place. he already has enough. See, in the American
He
Revolution,
actually got more of a turnout this time than even in 2016, which showed you that it was not fucking Russian collusion. That's the thing that pisses me off. They've spent the last 4 years, and you know what? The Trump administration, I mean, I don't know how the fuck this plays out where they're not fucking, I mean, the only reason why Biden, that fucking piece of shit, is because they had the media, the deep state, and the fucking political class, the entrenched political class, spent the last 4 years lying, extensively and misrepresenting. And of course, in Canada, I got to tell you, as a fucking Canadian, it makes me fucking sick to know the way the fucking media in this country covered the entire American elections and talk about Trump, because they have spent most of their time deriding the man to the point where, of course, people fucking felt beholden. And, even if you look at it today, though, even with all that bullshit, think about it. They've fucking double, triple, quadruple stacked their rhetoric and the bullshit they were willing to say, and still Trump did better than he even did in 2016. That is a message that the fucking people of America need to let really sink in and resonate. Is you tried to take the man down with all the propaganda, all the deep state, all the media hacks, all these fucking activist judges, right, on the courts, the Ninth Circuit of Appeal, all these fucks that tried their best to undermine Trump and his campaign and what he stood for. And yet he still, whether he wins or loses this election, he still showed that a huge, substantial portion, a big chunk of that pie that you call America, still stood behind that man, which tells you that you can play the games, you can put on the facade as much as you want, but the country of the U.S., just like the world, is massively, deeply divided. And when you have that kind of division, that shit does not get broken down or broken up just because someone else wins an election. That only gets further entrenched and deepens. They're deepening the division. So when I hear Biden out there or any of these fucksticks or Kamala Harris saying, oh, unity. No, you've divided. You've deepened that divide to the point where, like I say, you wait till you see the retaliation. You wait till you think you were hard on Trump? Well, let me tell you what the fucking, not just patriots, but even libertarians like myself, you wait till you see what you got in store. And if you think we're just all going to back down, tuck our tails between our legs, say, oh, we just lost and that's it, we're done for. Like, you're so sadly mistaken. You just don't, what it is you just have no idea the kind of people you're dealing with. But I'll just say for me, and I can't speak for anyone other than me, but I have never in my life backed down or shirked away from any controversy. Now, I've been strategic, right? I'm not going to stand before someone that's got the fucking bullet loaded in the chamber, that's got the fucking thing pointed at my forehead. I'm going to be smart enough to make sure I escape that particular threat. But trust me, it's only so that I live another day to make sure that fucker that put the fucking gun to my head knows damn well they fucked with the wrong person. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. And this is not a preemptive threat other than the fact to just point out that humans, there's such thing, as much as people don't like it, but the reason why nature, whether you're talking about the human species or animal kingdom, there's a reason why there's such thing as the strong survive, and that's because the strong are resilient. They have the audacity, the courage, convictions, and the skills that are needed to keep going and push on and make not just themselves, but their offspring stronger. This is just called evolution. This is called biology, and you can fight it all you want, but you can't beat it out of human nature, and you're not going to beat it out of the people today. So play the games all you want, pump up the Biden bullshit, keep pretending that Biden won, but like I say, wait till you see that sober second thought. Once you've had the time to think about it long enough, you realize that no, you've actually emboldened Trump supporters or those who thought, rightfully so, that Trump should have the second term in office. If he loses that out, well, it's not like the elections are done and over with for all of eternity. It's not like things are the buck doesn't stop at Biden, right? There's going to be retaliation. There's going to be effects. It's going to be long-standing. I say we've already dealt with this since, let's just go back all the way to 2001, the 9/11 text. We're already 20 years in this shit. How much longer do they want to keep it going? How much longer do they think that they can keep it going before things break down to the point where neither side are winners and we all end up as losers?
Well, I'll tell you what the intel community is basically telling Trump right now, that listen, because Trump was actually put his baby gloves on for the first 4 years of his presidency. Now this is the reason he's in the state that he is. So I'm actually mad at Trump right now because you know what? When he first got the Hillary Clinton, Anthony Weiner, and Hunter Biden laptops back, a year ago, or even some of the other laptops before then, he should have went after them then. Instead, what do? They wait till 2 weeks before the election to drop all the Hunter Biden leaks, which was great because then, it did sway some voters either or. But it didn't matter. You see that most of the people could care less if the guy was a pedophile. They still wanted to vote him in because the propaganda made them hate Trump so much. So the intel community is coming to Trump right now, and they're looking the guy in the eye and they're saying, listen, President Trump, all those young boys who ran and stormed the beaches of Normandy and gave up their lives for freedom, all the soldiers that are deployed right now and across the globe that are risking every day their lives and not coming home to their families, the 50-some million or 70-some million patriots that voted for you in this recent election, you owe it to them to arrest these deep state traitors for treason in the government, because if you don't, you give them the high ground, it's going to lead to more bloodshed of the patriots because you've given up the office. And he knows it, and he knows he can't give it up because then, yes, the patriots might go after Trump and have a hostility and animosity because he's in office right now. Here's another thing people need to realize. The man's Twitter feed at any point in time of the day, because he's the president, he can declassify whatever the hell he wants. So Trump, go right now on Twitter, go right now on these social media platforms and start declassifying all the criminal action, all the Hillary Clinton emails, all the dirty stuff. You know what? Even if the American people need to see Joe Biden's kid raping another kid, even though consuming that in itself would be an illegal act, maybe the American population needs to see that kind of shocking material. But it's time to get serious. And Trump, I think, realizes it now that we're in the end game. And, at the beginning of this, when they first took Alex Jones off social media, a huge portion of the social media patriots said to people like Trump and the Trump administration, hey, this internet censorship, you got to get this in check. You got to get this in check. And then for multiple years, nobody said shit because the first group of people that they took off were the Alex Joneses, the conspiracy theories, the outliers, the people that, might say some radical things. And because Trump said, well, I'm still on Twitter. And now look, they waited till the lead up to election. He can barely tweet anything without being censored. So Trump played it soft for the first 4 years. He hired Bolton. He hired these swamp creatures around him, and it backfired him. And I think finally now he's realizing that it's only going to be bold and decisive action that is going to win the victory. It's not going to be pandering to, well, what will the media think? Well, what will the CNN run if I arrest Biden tonight? Oh, my God, they're going to say I arrested my political opponent. I stole the presidency. It doesn't matter, Trump, because the outcome is communism. The outcome is your family has no future. So when you're faced with that kind of perspective of where we're headed, you have to do it. It's an obligation to the 70 million voters. It's an obligation to the boys at the beaches of Normandy who put their lives down. It's an obligation to the soldiers right now risking their lives that you go after the deep state traitors now. Round them up, have them arrested. We have the evidence on our side. We have the hard drives. We have the laptops. Who cares if a third of the country is going to say you're racist and you're going after your political enemies? They'll say that anyway. It's time to get results.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to bring up now because we haven't brought it up as of yet. But this was so insane because when I watched this on election night, let me bring this up here. So when I watched this on election night and brought it up on Google, let me get my little pointer out here. So Michigan was firmly on the side of Trump, and to a substantial degree, a substantial margin. Actually, I believe I have this on my laptop. This is my desktop. On my laptop, I believe I actually screen captured. I should have had this ready anyways, so to show you the difference. But Michigan was firmly in the Trump camp. Wisconsin was even leaning towards the red. Now they make it in pink, just like if you look here, Georgia, you see how they show it in a lighter blue, but it looks like Joe Biden is in a slight lead, which is why they're showing it in a lighter blue than the dark blue. So when it was first being reported, there was dark blue or this kind of blue for the Biden or for the Democratic votes, and there was the red for the Republican votes. The ones that were still left were North Carolina, which is still showing a slight lead for Donald Trump, and it looked like this pink color. So there was North Carolina, there was Georgia, there was Michigan, there was Wisconsin, and and Pennsylvania. That was the 5. That was the 5 fucking states that all were in this same pink color right here, this pink color. And it showed Donald Trump with a healthy lead. And the lowest number, I believe at the time, I may be correct, so don't quote me 100% on this, but I believe it might have been Georgia that at the time only had 61% reporting. The rest were all in the like 80+%. A lot of them, including Pennsylvania, Michigan, they were all like, I believe they were like 90-something% reporting, which is, that's a huge, I mean, if 90% of the people or the precincts are reporting, how the fuck could an extra 10 or less than 10% overwhelm or change that, right? Other than this whole farcical bullshit with the, mail-in ballots or all this bullshit. Like I say, something that has never been talked about in any prior historical election process, because you didn't hear this stuff talked about in 2016, in 2012, in 2008. When the fuck did you hear about talking about this mail-in ballot bullshit, right? And all this stuff. No, none of that was ever discussed or talked about before. But like I say, all these states, and I added them up, that were all leaning red because they had that pink color, which meant that Donald Trump was in the lead. And like I say, a substantial lead, at least by a few percentage points. How in the fuck did that all get reversed, right? To the point where the only one left is North Carolina, and it still has yet to be called, apparently. But how did that completely get flipped upside down? To the point where Trump was in the 290-some range, to now it's the exact opposite, where Joe Biden now has 290, and you only need 270 to win. And Donald Trump is down at the lowly 214. Like, how beyond fucked is that? That is profoundly amazing as far as I'm concerned. But even if you take all that shit into account, look down how it breaks down. So Georgia, 49.5% for Biden, 49.3%. I mean, that's pretty goddamn close, and that's pretty goddamn split, right? 2.658, 273, or 658, 2733. So North Carolina, Trump's a little ahead. 49.5, 49 for Arizona, 47.9, 51.2. Well, Florida, of course, Trump won that one, obviously. Iowa, 53 for Trump. Michigan. I can't believe Michigan went from Trump having quite, I believe, like I said, I'd have to go back and look at the numbers, but I think he had a 5-point lead at that time on election night. Now, multiple nights later, all of a sudden now it's been flipped upside down where Michigan now is firmly in the positive side for Joe Biden. How did that happen? Right? And why? And that's another thing. I would even question, why in the fuck is it that you're allowed to vote even after election day? Right? If you're doing early voting or even mail-in ballots, shouldn't that all be done prior to election day? That seems only reasonable that when election day comes around, that the votes should be tallied that day. The fact that it takes multiple days after that in 2020 to figure out who's the winner is like, so apparently we're no good at doing numbers anymore, right? Really, in the age of information, we can't figure out numbers anymore. How weird is that? Historically, we never had this kind of issue before we had such thing as the internet and an easy way to track numbers. Now numbers are hard in the internet age. That seems weird, doesn't it? Because to me, it should for you, which makes you wonder what the fuck is going on. Like I say, I don't get into conspiracy, folks, but I tell you, the way this election unfolded, it seems like there's some serious nefarious shit going on. And it's not because I'm a blind supporter or loyal to Trump. I'm just a casual observer, not a big fan of rulers of any kind, but I definitely seen how the media class and the political class has spent the last 4 years trying to denigrate and deride and make it so that Trump would lose this election no matter what it took. And like I say, the fact they were willing to use the Russian collusion narrative, the fact they were willing to impeach the man, you think it's beneath them to be even more corrupt and play with the fucking political process in terms of voting, but in a way that can be construed as, oh, we didn't totally, right? That's the fucking line. That is what these leftists, these collectivists do. We'll pretend that we're towing the line. We'll pretend that we're doing the right thing. But at the same time, there's so much in projecting that this is exactly the result that they wanted to make happen. And there was no string that they weren't willing to pull to bring that to fruition. And if they're willing to do that, what I would suggest is Trump supporters is if you aren't willing to do the exact same thing, like if Biden does, let's say Trump actually even accepts, right? Which would be a tough day, a tough pill to swallow. But let's say Trump even accepts. Biden won and he gives his acceptance speech. Well, if you Republicans, you right wingers, you libertarians, or anyone else that wanted to fucking disrupt this goddamn current establishment structure, if you're not willing to put in the kind of work and effort that the Democrats did to take down their man, then just accept the fact that you're going to be losers for all of eternity. Because if they're willing to put in the work, the effort to make their man come to power no matter what it takes, and if you're not willing to do the same, then you just accept the fact that you're a loser and you're always going to be one.
And I mean, just look at the optics of it. I remember that night, like it was yesterday, almost was. So yeah, we're all watching it. We're watching the night go by. Trump's winning across the board. It's almost a landslide. It's like, about 2:00 in the morning. Everyone's like, oh, well, we're just going to go to bed because, yeah, he clearly Trump's a president. He's ahead in all these areas. In some cases, he's up by 600,000-700,000 in some cases ballots. And then the optics. I mean, look at this, folks. He's winning. The counting is continually going on. He's winning. Then all of a sudden something happens. They stop all the votes around, 3, 4 in the morning. Everyone wakes up and Biden's ahead. Now, why'd they stop the votes in the middle of the night? We know why. Because they're like, we need time to fix it. We need time to do the fraud. We need time to go and get some more ballots. We need time to use the programs to switch the ballot. That's why they stopped the votes, folks. Why is it that California and some of these other Democratic places, they continue to count all the time, no problems there. And then these key battlegrounds, you got all these issues where it's 3-4 days after the election and they still can't get the numbers figured out. They can't get the numbers figured out. And they stopped counting because they needed the time to rig the system. Everyone is aware of that. I mean, just there's certain situations that you can look at some of these charts and graphs where in the middle of the night, all of a sudden Biden gets 120,000 votes for him. Can you imagine flipping a coin and every single time it landed on heads? Like they couldn't even have threw in 5,000 out of 120,000 Trump votes to kind of make it look obvious. No, they threw it in your face. They let everyone know, no, it's blatant fraud. You have the pollsters in the Republican areas. You got Democrats, Republicans coming in. Everyone's allowed to watch people count the votes. I mean, here's another thing, people. The drug cartel, when they're producing cocaine, usually they get the women to be completely naked. So then they know that they're not stealing any of the drugs, right? They're not sticking any coke under their tits. They don't want them to take it. It's a sophisticated operation. We have the American election, which should be a very sophisticated operation, one that's even more sophisticated than drugs making cocaine. And what do? They count ballots 30, 40 feet away. They don't allow people into view. They shut stuff down. Like, what kind of ringy-dingy republic is this? This is not how you do it. In some cases where these ballots, they'd be loaded into trucks. They'd be driven by someone, and then he would drive them and walk them into the polling station. There should have been a conveyor belt of people videoing it, watching him, it going from him to him, all these different safety mechanisms to make sure that this goes down flawless. None of that was put in place. And it's funny that all the areas that are contested are the areas that are Democrat run and all these, it's so one-sided. It's not even the Biden people saying, well, there might be some fraud for us. No, it's all the Trump people that got screwed over. We're the only ones. So whether it's them not allowing the pollsters to watch them count the votes, that's suspicious. You got videos of them literally boarding up windows so people can't watch them count the votes. That's suspicious. It's suspicious that Biden over in the middle of the night can get 120, 130,000 mail-in ballots and not any of them go to Trump. That's suspicious. You got intelligence agencies and generals coming out and saying, hey, we developed in the military a program called the Hammer and Scorecard, and we have used it on other foreign agencies, and we think it's been used against us domestically now. And we're watching this election. In some cases where you're watching on TV, these anomalies where all of a sudden votes just switch, and the intelligence agency designed this program in a way that it would be hard to visibly notice it because they wanted to be able to use it on other foreign governments and stuff like that, right? And what a powerful tool if you can have a tool that changes electronic votes, right? So everyone knows this. The intelligence community knows it. Trump knows it. A.G. Barr 3 months before the even election gets on CNN arguing with all the reporters there on CNN saying, listen, this thing's ripe. We shouldn't even do mail-in. So Trump will win. It'll all come out like my father just went through. A lot of these margins that he supposedly lost by, some of them are 5,000 votes, 10,000 votes. It's not like we're talking margins of millions or hundreds of thousands. In some cases, it's literally less than 100,000 sway. So I guarantee once they go in and they look into all this stuff, they're going to find these 5,000-6,000, in some cases, easily find 5,000-6,000 fraudulent votes for the Democrat Party.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to cover this real quick because for the people that think, and I'll just mention, if you want to share this to your leftist friends, if they think that the left has truly won, then they're sadly mistaken. So this is elections 2020 at a Reason magazine. Kamala Harris says equal outcomes should be the goal of public policy, because it's not just that Biden wins, right? If that's the case. Is the big talk these days is how Kamala Harris, right, the Indian, black, American, I don't know, like nowadays identity politics seems to matter more than anything else. Fuck ideas. Let's just care about the color of your skin or where you come from historically. That matters more than anything. But anyways, Kamala Harris says equal outcomes should be the goal of public policy. Equal outcomes, folks. We're not talking about the pretense of equality under the law, where you just should be treated as a decent human being and given that kind of equality and respected in that way. No. They're saying equality in terms of outcome, which means hindering, destroying, or reducing someone's ability to be prosperous in their own way. You have to spread your prosperity around, which means destroying your own ability to do what you got to do and handing that off to someone else. But anyways, there's a big difference between equality and equity. So this was reported on November 2nd, 2020. Democratic vice presidential candidate Kamala Harris provided narration for a short animated clip that appeared on her Twitter feed Sunday. In the clip, Harris gives voice to a leftist progressive narrative about the importance of equity, not equality, folks, equity, equal outcomes, rather than mere equality before the law. There's a big difference between equality and equity, says Harris. Equality suggests, everyone should get the same amount. The problem with that, not everybody's starting in the same place. Harris contrasted equal treatment, all people getting the same thing, with equitable treatment, which means we all end up in the same place. So think about it. How in the fuck could human beings, right, ever end up in the same place when we're not all equal? And you know that as a human being, if you're a fucking human being, if you've got a pulse, right, you actually have a heart, you have a brain, you know damn well there's no such thing you've never seen in your entire fucking life where all humans are equal in every way. You know that's not the case. You know it'll never be the case. And it's the most ridiculous, farcical nonsense that you ever could construct in the human mind, is to think or suggest that you could ever create a society where we're all equal. But that's the pretense, and that's the goal of not just Kamala Harris, but the entire Biden administration, these leftist progressives. And progressive, can we stop using that term? That's so fucking bullshit. This is regressive, right? Equality, that's progressive. Equity, that is as regressive as you can possibly get, right? So the fact that, like I say, it's Orwellian, folks. It's Orwellian to think that you can ever create a situation or scenario where we're all going to be the same, right? We're not all the same. We're not all equal in every way. And there's never going to be any point in time in history where that'll ever come to fruition. And those who try to instill or make that happen means that you got to punish and cause a massive amount of hardships to those who are on the upper echelons naturally, right? So if you're naturally have a lot of strength or intellect or skills, the only way you get equity is to destroy that person from being competent in their manner. So the fastest person on the track under an equity situation means that, well, you can't run as fast as you can. If you run as fast as you can, unencumbered and unimpeded, then that means you will win the race. And you know what? Under the equity doctrine, that's not allowed. The only way we can get to equity is make sure that person that's done the work, the effort, has the natural skills, maybe the physical prowess, maybe the genetics to win the race. Well, that means we got to slow them down some way. So it's not even just a matter of speeding up slow, the turtles, the tortoises on the race. No, it's a matter of literally restricting and impeding the hares, right? So the only way you get an equity outcome is causing disruptions to both. Right? And I'll tell you, even if I'm on the side of being the slowest in the race, even if I'm the tortoise, I don't want someone to give me a gain an advantage or win the race because you've slowed my opponents down, because that hasn't done anything for me other than give me a false pretense or sense of superiority. But in reality, it's not going to play out very well in my real world, because if you had to trip up my opponent for me to win the race, then someone's going to have to spend the rest of their life tripping up every opponent I've ever had over the course of the rest of my life. Otherwise, the reality is going to have to fucking confront me at some point in time, right? And I would never want to place anyone in that position. My own sons would tell you this. Matt will tell you this. I would never want my son to gain a leg up or an advantage because I could beat up their opponent and prevent them from winning the race. The only way my son would ever succeed and do better is if they learn to do better on their own. I mean, I can help them in multiples of ways, but I don't want my son to win because I've made someone else lose. And that's the world that we're headed towards today under this goddamn Biden-Harris fucking goddamn administration, if that's actually what ends up taking place. And if it does, as much as I'm totally against it, and I have absolute disdain for this equity bullshit, once again, I'm going back to the mentality that, you know what, if that's what the people want, give the people what they want, because I guarantee once they've had enough of that equity bullshit, they'll never want it again. Actually, I'm starting to firmly believe that the Enlightenment era and all those beautiful things that brought about the modern understanding of libertarianism and liberty happened as a result of people trying these goddamn experiments in the past. Let's do this experiment once again, even though I can't stand it, and even though I know a lot of people are going to be harmed along the way. If it requires having to go through this equity experiment one more time for people to realize just how fucking retarded it is, then let's do it. Because I'd rather rip the Band-Aid off and finally get the pain over than put this shit on for another 10 or 20 years.
Well, unfortunately, I hate to bust your bubble. It's not going down like that. I'm going to give you another tidbit. So,
damn it! No, just kidding. But go ahead.
No, yeah. I'm going to give you another tidbit of information. So, remember what I said. Rudy Giuliani is the personal lawyer to the president. So you know those two talk on a daily basis, if not every other day. Rudy Giuliani has in his possession Hunter Biden's entire laptop hard drive files. There's multiple copies of the hard drive, but Rudy has one and other people have some. Okay, now what is on this laptop that we know of? We know that Hunter Biden's smoking crack on a lot of it. So the hypocrisy of the father who's running to be president, who made the crime bill, the 1984 crime bill that made powder cocaine and crack cocaine, made crack cocaine a hell of a lot more heavier sentence. His son is smoking the crack that he also is putting away millions of black people and millions of minorities around the country. So that in itself is a tragedy, a scandal, a fraud, and a hypocrisy. But that's the small stuff. What else is on the laptop? What else is on the laptop is Hunter Biden engaged in a wide spectrum of sexual promiscuous acts with prostitutes that are of age and prostitutes that are underage. What also is on the laptop? Also on the laptop is Hunter Biden. So Hunter Biden had a brother. His name was Beau Biden. Beau Biden died. What's Hunter Biden do? He starts screwing his brother's widow's wife and molesting the niece, Natalia.
Who does shit like that?
Okay, so this is Hunter Biden. This is Joe Biden's son. This is the character, a crackhead, a pedophile, and he's now a bag man. Okay. So here's the most damning thing on the laptop, though, and why I think Trump will be president and it will not be Joe Biden. I'm going to read it for you right now. Obama allowed Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party to militarize the South China Sea in exchange for $1 billion. And Hunter Biden and Joe Biden took most of the $1 billion as the intermediate bagmans in that deal. Now, there was also a photo that got circulated, and it was a photo of Hunter Biden talking to Obama in the White House. That got leaked off the laptop. Why was that photo so important? Who took the photo, right? So it's Hunter Biden standing with with Barack Obama. Who took the photo? Who took the photo was Joe Biden. Why did Joe Biden take that photo? I'm going to get to my next point, which is what's on the laptop. On the laptop, in the hands, Rudy Giuliani has heard it, has seen it, and has told the president this information. Joe Biden filmed Hunter Biden and Obama talking about this $1 billion deal to sell out America and to allow China to build up military bases in the South China Sea in exchange to enrich the Biden and Obama family by $1 billion. And they videotaped it, and there's audio and video of the deal. Playing that individual recording of that transaction in itself is treason, in itself could sink the administration, in itself would put them all in jail. Now, Trump has this information. He's sitting on it. Why? Because Trump likes, it's not the strategy I would go to, but he kind of lets his enemies hang himself. So they're calling the election. They're saying Joe Biden won. And everyone right now in the Democrats, they're partying, they're dancing in front of the White House. It's going to be so funny, the egg on everyone's face, when it comes down to when they actually do the transition and Trump doesn't leave and Trump declassifies, and everyone for the American population can hear Hunter Biden talking to President Obama saying, hey, we're talking to the spy chief. We're talking to CCP. We're going to sell out America, and we're going to allow them to militarize South China Sea. And we're going to do it for $1 billion and enrich our own pockets. Once that stuff comes out into the public, which it's already kind of been floated around, it's done. It's over. You can't put Biden in office if you have physical proof of him being a pedophile, a bag man, and a corrupt individual who's in the pockets of the CCP. The military aspect knows this. The intelligence agency knows it. It's on many people's laptops. They've reviewed it. They've seen this clip. It's not going to happen, folks, and this is why. You can't. Trump has a duty as the office of the president to prosecute this stuff. And if he don't, and if he sits on the laptop, if Rudy sits on this, then they're all in on it. And you know what? We're going to come after Trump and Rudy too. But nothing so far has said that Trump and Rudy are in on it because they are working to put this information out. They're just waiting. That's why Trump's golfing on the day that they call it for Biden. They know they have all the material. They have the voter fraud. They have the hammer and scorecard. They have the laptops and the emails. And they're just waiting for it. That the minute the deep state actually says, you know what, we're going to come in and actually take you out of office, Trump's going to go, all right, here you go, everyone. And there's no way in hell they're going to be able to put this man in office when everyone for the entire globe can see he's clearly implemented in a criminal.
Well, listen, let me just cover this. No, I hear you. But I wanted to bring this out too, because people today are going to be constantly, especially in the established media, going to be talking about all these world leaders, right, that are congratulating Joe Biden. Well, you might want to take this into account, folks. And you know what? It's kind of important, right? Because the European Union or some dipshits around the world, like that don't mean a whole lot. But, under NAFTA or CUSMA, in reality, it's this USMCA is what
all
it is.
All world leaders
right?
who support him right now are showing that they have compromised material on these world leaders.
Yeah. Well, look at apparently Mexico's president is good to go because this is coming out of the Post Millennial. Great website, by the way. I'll say that definitely challenges the status quo and the establishment. American News breaking: Mexico's president refuses to congratulate Joe Biden. This is reported by Ian Miles Chung, Montreal out of Quebec, November 7th, 2020. Mexico's president Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador has refused to congratulate Joe Biden on his potential victory in the U.S. 2020 elections, breaking ranks from his counterparts in the United Kingdom, Canada, and France. Earlier today, the leaders of the UK, Canada, and France offered their congratulations to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris for their apparent victory at the polls after the Associated Press, CNN, and other mainstream news outlets, not the Electoral College, right? No. Not the official people who get to call elections, but media outlets, right? Called the race for the Biden-Harris campaign against President Donald Trump. Speaking to the press, the Mexican president said that he was unable to offer his congratulations till all legal proceedings are concluded, calling his decision politically prudent, which I would suggest, yes, until the actual political process has been deemed legitimate, not by fucking hacks in the media, especially like CNN, like please, or the AP. I mean, we all know that these are fucking never Trumpers. Most of these people in Associated Press, CNN, and these other mainstream news outlets are never Trumpers. They're fucking haters. They're resentful. They're the people that have been kept up all night, every night for the last 4 years by the fact that their man that they hate, that they loathe, won the election. So do I trust these people? No. And neither does the Mexican president. And you know, like I say, this is North America, folks. Pretend all you want, but Canada and Mexico are on totally different footholds. And you know what? Mexico is doing a much better job, actually, sadly, as much as I hate to admit it, in terms of getting contracts and being rewarded by the Americans and the American administration for not playing such fucking ridiculous politics. The Mexicans, for crying out loud, folks, are now kicking even our ass. That should tell you something. That should tell you something that Canada's going down a wrong path here, where now we're playing second fiddle to the Americans and the American culture to Mexico. Now, Mexico has a much more cozier relationship with fucking U.S. than even Canada does. So that rhetoric where Canada, we're their closest ally and neighbor. Well, no, we now take second fiddle. We now play second fiddle to Mexico. And why? Because Mexico has had a political class that's seemingly much more reasonable than even our own. That should tell you a lot, folks. So you can no longer point the finger at the Mexican people or the Mexican administration as being third world proponents or propagandists, when in reality Canada has now taken center stage when you're talking about that shit, and Mexico is now our superiors. That's a failure on a fucking level that is unbelievable in this modern world, but it is something that the Canadian people need to accept. And you know what? Swallow your pride and start to do better, because this is a sad reality that even Mexico and the Mexican president saying, you know what? I'm going to wait. They're actually shown to be much more prudent than these salivating motherfucking dipshits at CBC or Global, who are now paid off by big government with that $600 million bailout package, who are now, like I said, claiming victory when it hasn't even already been formally acknowledged by the genuine electoral college or the electoral process. Like I said, I hope Matt's right, and I hope Trump wins, because that would be egg on the face of these fucks so much that it would be a great victory and a great way to point at how ridiculous these people are. But no matter how this situation plays out, whether Trump ultimately wins or Biden wins, at the very least, it shows there's not just divide among people in the particular country of the U.S. or Canada, but it's showing a divide even between the North American Union in terms of trade, cooperation, and Mexico, like I say, is kicking Canada's proverbial ass, and at least showing enough resilience and courage to say, no, I'm going to do the right thing in the absence of political correctness. That's a sad statement. Good for the American or the Mexican people, good for the Mexican presidency, but bad news for Canada and our ability to think critically about these kind of situations.
All right. So when you talk about the world leaders who come out and right now are saying that calling it for
a bunch
Biden,
of fucking losers.
All you need to realize is what you're seeing transpire is just a variant of Chinese Communist Party's blue, gold, yellow program, which is the program that takes advantage of Western politicians, celebrities, and their families who are greedy for Chinese wealth and threaten them by holding them accountable with recording their sex, their drug videos, forcing them to sell their country and people, even their own national security. So I just sent my father, I'm going to, if you wouldn't mind putting up the photo that I sent you, but when you see Justin Trudeau and Netanyahu and these idiots,
is on Facebook, you mean? Okay, here we Facebook.
Go. And they throw their support behind Biden. You need to realize that they're having their arms twisted behind closed doors to go out and give that early support for Biden, because they're all compromised. They're all in the same program, right? You don't get to be these people. So there you go, folks. Here's the proof. Big up the photo, and let's all look here and see what we're looking at. So this, if you guys can see, is a picture in the White House in the Oval Office. You have Hunter Biden talking to President Obama. Nobody can deny it. Okay, there's the physical proof. So clearly this implicates the fact that those two had a relationship. Those two met, and they're even meeting right now in the White House. Now, who the hell took the photo of them, right? You need a third person to take that photo, right? Unless they set it on a tripod, which I highly doubt. So the person who took the photo was Joe Biden. No, why the hell would he take this photo? This photo is just a clip of a video of them talking about this $1 billion deal that they're going to take from the CCP, and Obama and Biden are going to allow the Chinese to build up their military in the South China Sea. Obama, Biden, they're all compromised. They're all crime families. They're all going down. It's all going to come out. Watch and see. And, because people say, well, how do you know, Matt? How can you talk with such authority on the matters? Because I'm listening to the chief of the House Intelligence Committee. I'm listening to generals, dude. I'm listening to the intelligence community. I'm not listening to CNN. I'm not listening to whatever late night podcast or whatever, or some stoner talk show. I'm listening to the highest ranking members in the government who are telling me this information. They're putting it out there for the public to see. They're seeping it out. So people need to realize that everything I say, I'm not talking out my own butt here. I'm not blowing smoke. This is coming from the intelligence community. And there's just one photo. I can't show you all the photos I have of myself because I already know I'll get banned. It's nasty stuff. But if I have these photos, Rudy has all photos because that's where most of them came from. And Trump has seen them. So Trump has a civic duty that he cannot allow the country to be taken over by a communist Chinese party infiltrator, Joe Biden, who has sold his family out and sold access to the presidency, because that's what they're paying for. They're not sending them all this money for nothing. And that's just one. That's just the Chinese. The Hunter Biden family also took money from Kazakhstan, Russia, Iran. So they're compromised on multiple levels. So when I see Justin Trudeau and all these individuals coming out and throwing support around Joe Biden, everyone in the Patriot movement should be like, whoa, you just gave us the key. What kind of compromising dirt do they have on Trudeau? And we know this. You just look at how Trudeau talks about China. He gets up, he says, China's not that bad. I kind of like to model them. In some ways, I'm jealous of their dictatorship. You can tell by his own way he talks, he's in favor of the CCP. Look how he handles himself when he meets Xi Jinping, right? They have compromising dirt. That's why they're all friends.
Yeah, this is so fucking crazy. I'm just reading this. I don't know about this, but I'm just going to read it because Paul Lucas put it out there. And like I say, whether it's truthful or not, I'm just going to read it and let you folks decide for yourself. But Dominion Voting Systems of Toronto provided the corrupted software that changed ballots for Biden in Michigan, Wisconsin, etc. Apparently, who would guess? So I don't, like I say, I have no idea whether this is true or false. But that's
the beautiful thing is, living in the technological era, even the deep staters, they were all texting each other on their iPhones. They were sending emails. Yes, they were using Proton Mail and all these other encryption programs and all these other programs that they use to swap the ballots. But the beautiful thing about digital stuff is there's always a paper trail. It's never truly invisible or gone. See, unlike a piece of paper where you can literally burn it and let the ashes blow in the wind, everything that the deep state did in all their criminal acts behind closed doors, the bastards compromised themselves and kept it all for themselves to use against each other as leverage. And now we have it. Now the Trump administration has all the details. So now it's game over for these folks.
Well, let me just bring this up. This I just noticed on my Facebook feed just now. So let me bring this up, folks, because this is new, breaking, and it's from the Post Millennial. And I got to tell you, they're always bang on. They haven't got any strikes, as far as I know, against them in terms of the reporting. They seem to be really good at doing their work, dotting their I's and crossing their T's. So let me just bring this up here for you folks. This is what the Post Millennial is reporting on right now. Biden already planning to undo Trump's progress with barrage of executive orders. So we kind of expected this might be taking place, but let's see what they're talking about this. So this is reported by Celine Ryan, November 8th, 2020, Washington, D.C. Biden is reportedly already making plans to reverse many of Trump's most major policy decisions via a barrage of executive orders. According to a report from the Washington Post, Biden plans to do away with Trump's travel ban titled Protecting the Nation from Foreign Terrorists Entering into the United States, which bars travel from countries deemed by the government to be particular terror threats. This order has been dubbed the Muslim ban because countries included are Muslim majority countries. Biden also plans to reinstate the program that allowed dreamers or illegal folks, illegal immigrants who arrived as children to stay in the country. Biden has announced that the first thing he wants to do as president is rejoin the Paris Climate Accord. So another bad deal, obviously, right? An agreement that Trump left because it disadvantages the United States to the exclusive benefit of other countries. New York Attorney General Letitia James, a Democrat, said before the election that she was assisting in making a list of Trump's policies for Biden to undo. This is their goal all along, and this is exactly and precisely what they're trying to do, folks. So keep this in mind. We're preparing a list, and the list is long, she told NBC. We will work with the Biden administration to ask them to file stays in a number of cases that are pending in the courts all across this country. Now, one thing I will say about this is, fortunately, I don't know how far or how much progress Trump has made. I know there was almost 200 judges, but hopefully that'll be enough that the federal appointed judges, as well as the Supreme Court appointees that Trump has appointed, will help undo some of this stuff. But like I say, we still know the deep state has a tremendous amount of power and political influence. So let's just keep that in mind. Biden has also promised that he would undo Trump's executive orders that eliminated certain Obama era policies. So are we talking about now the individual mandate for Obamacare? You never know, right? It is cruel and abhorrent to strip migrant children of the few protections they have. It's not enough that the administration puts children ages with folks in bed. Anyways, so this is obviously quoting the way the fucking the Biden campaign and their ilks. Like, it's not like Trump himself personally wants to cause harm to children, right? But if you send your children across the border illegally, unaccompanied, or even if they were accompanied by their parents, that's just a bet. I wouldn't do that to my fucking kids.
Well,
nor would I want to blame someone else for my own wrongdoing. But this is what they try to do on that. They try to play that bleeding heart mentality. Go ahead, Matt.
Oh, just that too. If you get, these young kids rolling out these adults, how do you know they're their parents, and how do you know they're legitimate IDs and they're coming from Mexico? How do you know they're not coyotes trafficking the children? Because we know that exists too. So, I'm not going to leave children in a cage with potentially violent coyotes who are trafficking children, drugs, and whatever. So, of course, it makes sense to separate them at first, just to determine, whoa, who is this, and we got to see who we're actually putting you in with. But now let's go back to some physical proof. So I didn't even see this today because I've been prepping for this podcast. But I guess this morning on Fox News, on Maria Mornings with Maria, Sidney Powell was on there this morning from 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern. That's what time Maria's show is. So you guys can go find that on YouTube and stuff. So let me read what Sidney Powell says. Sidney Powell claims that in her investigation team has identified 450,000 ballots in key battleground states that cast the vote only for Biden, with no other candidate voted down the ticket. Speaking to Fox News host Maria on Sunday morning features, Powell explained what these ballots are and what they are meant for the election. We've identified at least 450,000 ballots in key states that miraculously only had a mark for Joe Biden on them and no other candidates, Powell said. Powell also said the Department of Justice should investigate the so-called computer glitches she had glitches like this that flipped the Trump votes from to Biden. The computer glitches could not and should not have happened at all, Powell said. That's where the fraud took place, where they're flipping votes in the computer system and added votes that didn't exist. So here's Sidney Powell this morning, folks. You can go watch the video for yourself on Fox News, the Mornings with Maria. And Sidney Powell, who I said is the Attorney General Michael Flynn. It's her personal lawyer. So this is not an attorney that's just blowing smoke. She is constantly in tune to classified information. And she is also one of the ones is blowing the whistle on this program called Hammer and Scorecard. So she's coming out nicely without actually saying Hammer and Scorecard on Maria's show and saying, I would ask the DOJ to investigate these computer glitches that happened through the night that all of a sudden churned Trump votes over to Biden votes. And then she herself is saying our investigation team has already found 450,000 of these glitches in these key battleground states, folks. It's happening. Listen to the intelligence community. Know who to listen to get the information. These people are not going to put this information out there and put their careers on the line as peddling false news and conspiracy theories. This is Sidney Powell. This is House Intelligence Committee members, members of Congress, generals. It's all coming down the pipe, folks. You wait and see.
Yeah, this is crazy. I'm just actually scrolling through my feed there now. There's a lot of insane stuff going on. Anyways, yeah, let me take that off the equation. So what do we got here? Kinsella. So this is Warren Kinsella. Not a fan of that guy. He's a bit of a piece of shit himself. He's a conservative. Had a big hate on for fucking Maxime Bernier, which helped to kind of destroy the ability of the PBC to gain any traction in Canada. But let's just hear what Warren has to say, because sometimes even your enemies can be friends if you yourself share the same kind of enemy in common. So this is, like I say, Kinsella, organization decency, experience paid off for Biden. What the fuck is this? There are lots of theories about why Joe Biden beat Donald Trump. That Trump had offended lots of people, that Trump had alienated Americans of color, that FEMA voters hated him. But the reality is that Trump dramatically increased his vote total over 2016, including, okay, let me read this. I'm going to bring this up then. Just wanted to double check and see if it was going to be even worthwhile here. So like I say, let me bring this up. StreamYard, share screen. Okay. So as you can see, let me just make sure, yeah, you can see that right here. Let me make the font a little bigger here. There are a lot of theories about why Joe Biden beat Donald Trump. And first of all, that's not even the case as of yet. So fucking stop handing over the victory just yet there, Warren. That Trump had offended lots of people, that Trump had alienated Americans of color, the FEMA voters hated him. But the reality is that Trump, the reality, folks, this is reality. Rather than fucking wishful thinking or false pretenses, in reality is that Trump dramatically increased his vote total over 2016, including with minorities and Republican women. Women, folks, women. The reality is that the Republican president received the second highest share of the popular vote in American presidential history. But it wasn't enough. He lost. Well, so this is Warren playing politics. Because the reality is also this: Joe Biden won an even bigger share of the popular vote, and that happened. His win happened because of organization. Yeah, because of collectivism, groupthink, right? Full disclosure, this writer worked as an unpaid volunteer. Here we go. Here we go, folks, right? So at the very least, some truth is coming to fruition here. Full disclosure, this writer, so Kinsella, the man who's supposed to be a conservative, right, worked as an unpaid volunteer for Joe Biden and the Democrats for many months. Seems a little weird for someone that's so-called conservative, right? I've helped the Democrats for years and was to be an accredited volunteer at their August leadership convention in Milwaukee. But the coronavirus had other plans. With the border closed, I couldn't cross the border and knock on doors. Anyway, so I won't necessarily, I guess, read too much. I won't give this piece of shit too much time. Check it out.
I got more breaking info.
What he did admit was true, and that's that without any collusion, without any Russian influence, without the bots taking over the election, right? Think about it. It's the opposite that happened. The opposite. The deep state, the bureaucrats, the left, the organization of the collectivists, they put their work in, no doubt about it. But it still wasn't enough to eliminate the fact that Trump not only had as much support in 2016, which should completely dispel and destroy the myth of the Russian collusion narrative, right? But he actually increased it, which tells you that the American people rightfully said, you know what? I want to poke the eye in the establishment, and I'm willing to even support Trump if that's the only man that's willing to do so. So, like I say, the country of the U.S., just like the rest of the globe, is massively divided. This pretense of unity, which is probably going to be something that's going to be pumped up as a narrative by the left, forget it. Wipe it out. It's not even a fucking pretense. It's not even something that you should even give 5 seconds worth of thought to. There is no unity. It's just they're going to try to pump up that message to get people to think that they're now going to be the ones that are taking the mature position. When in reality, they've been acting like the adolescent children, the spoiled child for the last 4 years. So don't fall for the narrative. In reality, the populace of America, just like the populations of all of the Western world, are deeply divided. And the only way this is ever going to change is when we finally come to the fact that, hey, if we're going to participate in a democracy or a republic or any kind of politics, means we got to abide by the same rules. And you can't keep playing these political games forever. Because if you do, it's always going to be about divide and conquer. And trust me, at some point in time, battles are going to be won by either side, but ultimately the war will be won by those who have the most strength, resilience, courage, and conviction to keep the fight and maintain it. And trust me, even though the right now has not so far been seeming to be that camp that takes that position. Why? Is because they're like I say, they're the person that's recognizing that the 98-pound weakling has been constantly challenging them. And they don't feel like the right are like, I don't want to beat up on them and my weak opponent. But the more their opponents are showing that they have this kind of strength, resilience, and are putting on this pretense that they're like, I'm the new king in town. Well, like I say, wait till you see what happens when the right is like, well, I might have to put that kind of bullshit, check your facts, and check your ego. And that's what's going to ultimately end up going to happen is the egos of the left are going to be checked.
Well, here's some other tidbit of information that I'll give you too. So Wisconsin right now has it reported that Joe Biden's in the lead, 1,630,570 votes, and Trump is behind him by 1,610,030 votes. So we're talking 20,000 votes in the difference to swing Wisconsin. Now, I can also go and pull up a story right now, and I'm going to read it for you. Major developments in Wisconsin. In direct violation of state law, the Wisconsin Elections Commission instructed every clerk in the state to illegally alter absentee ballots that were missing information that would have invalidated them. Former Wisconsin Supreme Court Justice Michael Gableman noted that Wisconsin Elections Commission sent a directive to the clerk to fill in the witness address themselves as a clear violation of Wisconsin Statute 6.86. The statute is very clear, said Gableman, who worked as a poll watcher in Milwaukee on election day. So you have a former retired Supreme Court justice working the day of Wisconsin in Milwaukee as a poll watcher. He witnessed himself, the clerk, telling people, fill in the addresses because then it'll be validated when they're supposed to be filled in by the person who initiated the ballots. So you think that Supreme Court justice isn't going to take the pledge and go to court and say, I see.
He'll sign the affidavit.
Come on, he's already signed it. I'm like, some of these people are done. They don't realize. But think about it. What did Biden? His only option was to call it early. Because if Biden just kept waiting, each day goes by, and they go, it could be, then that gives Trump the power. I
don't even know how anyone could pretend that listen, we all watched the same election play out. You barely even seen Biden on the fucking stage. The guy hid in his basement and fucking the media. Listen. The media and the deep state and the political class, if Biden gets in power, they're the ones who won. Because Biden didn't win shit. That's what I know.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, we could probably finish it up now or soon because we're at 2.5 hours. We usually don't go much more longer than that. But
cool.
I hope everyone realized in 2.5 hours, we explained to you how dirty government is, how the intelligence agency works, that the intelligence agency has a track record of selling and shipping drugs, selling and shipping children, and meddling in foreign regimes, and the same breath holds and goes, Russia's meddling in our election. Meanwhile, they meddle in every election in the entire globe and around everywhere. We've showed you multiple intelligence agencies and people in the highest echelons of government telling you, guys, pay attention here. There's massive voter fraud. We're investigating it all. The courts take time to get this information and process it. Everything's going to come out. The fact that they called it early should only send more suspicion to them and realize that they're grasping for straws. But you know why they called it early? I am now going to drop you, and it's common knowledge, not like I have some inner thoughts that give me the answer, but you watch. What's going to happen? Here's what's going to happen. Trump will win in the courts. He will remain president, and then the next 4 years, just like the first 4 years, instead of a Russian collusion coup, it'll be Trump stole the election from Biden. And he'll be fighting that through the second term. The same bullshit. The only thing different is Trump now had the first term where he learned that, oh my God, I got to watch who I surround myself with, people who I thought my friends are my enemies and blah, blah, blah. He's finally getting the crew around him, the Steve Bannons, the Roger Stones, the crew around him that know how to steer him in the right direction. And I see Trump coming out term 2, taking the gloves off, and I want to see prosecutions of Hillary Clinton, Obama, Biden family, and all that kind of stuff. Because the only way, like my father said, back to humanology, the only way to make these people stop coming at us and stop swinging and stop trying to mess with our freedom is Trump to punch them right back and say, all right, here's all the crap you did. You're going to jail. We're done with it. And I think that's where we're at in the American population's psyche right now.
Yeah, I mean, well, like I say, the left has shown that there's no card that they're not willing to play. They'll do anything to win. And you know what? As much as I'm a fan of trying to do the right thing, hold your head high, be dignified and all that stuff. If it means that you lose at the end of the day, then be damned with all that bullshit. Sometimes, as much as I'm a principled character, and I really firmly believe that. But if your opponents aren't as principled as you are, you've only placed yourself in a position to lose. So unfortunately, in this modern Orwellian world, you got to fight fire with fire. You're not going to fucking do any better by trying to play this holier than thou game, right? And turning the other cheek to people who, like I said, have willingly said, yeah, I'll slap either side of your fucking face. Present whatever side of your face you want. I'm going to slap the living fuck out of it. Well, if your opponent is that kind of person, well, maybe you should stop turning your cheek to either side, look them at them straight on, confront them, and say, you know what? Next time you try to slap me, I'm going to warn you. I'm punching back. And this time, it's not going to be with an open palm. It's going to be with a closed fucking fist. So the warning is out there. Stop playing your games. Stop using force. Stop using lies. Stop using bullshit rhetoric as your means to win at all means or at all costs, because you're only emboldened me to do the same thing. And an eye for an eye means we're all going to end up blind at the end of the day. So stop playing your fucking games, because you might want to see how things unfold as much as I do.
Yeah, and just the fact that history is we always look back on history with foresight, and all of these idiots, man, you're going to be looked back on as the Hitlers. All these CBC reporters that get up there, you think they're not going to be able to watch these archived CBC videos that, during the time that you had people promoting freedom and promoting liberty, you got these scumbag reporters, you got these mainstream media hacks, these deep staters.
CNN is Goebbels, or whatever.
Exactly. So, Anderson Cooper and all these asshole CBC reporters that get up there and take a paycheck to push propaganda, you keep stirring division in the country with your propaganda. It's going to get to the point where you're not going to be able to enjoy a soup at a restaurant because you're going to have an angry mob everywhere you go. So go, good job. You just stirred up the hornet's nest, folks. Go ahead. The best thing you can do is try to take the election from Trump, because then even more gloves come off. Like my father said, everything they do when it comes to the Patriot movement, you hit us, we're going to hit you back harder. And the only reason we're so reserved, because like my father said, these Antifa are 98-pound little weaklings that are smash out Chase Bank buildings. We're reserved because when we're not, that's it. It's over. And it's not going back. And they're not putting the genie back in the bottle. And one thing that made me very proud and happy is the fact that, 50% of Americans did support Trump. So that makes me feel very good that many people support the values and principles behind Christian values, somewhat libertarian values, somewhat quasi-capitalism, free market. So it's not all lost. The best thing the media is good at doing is making it look like your opponent is this big, huge, it's kind of like a shadow, right? It's like a shadow. It makes it look like he's this big, huge Antifa. We roll the world. We're Black Bloc crew. We're strong. And in actual reality, these people are small minority radicals. And when actually shit hits the street and when actually shit gets serious, they'll be overnight. They're no problem. I'm not worried about them.
Oh yeah. No, that's true. And this, like I say, the time is going to come. The warnings have been put out there, and it's time for the people to start recognizing and realize that it can't go on this way. So either you start to learn to be respectful of each other, start to learn that you can't have it your way. It's not always going to be your way, the highway, no matter which side of the political divide you are. It's time to get back to more libertarian-oriented philosophy and values where we have a live, let live mentality. You do you and I'll do me. Just don't encroach or infringe on my rights and my freedoms and my liberties. And at the end of the day, that's where unity truly rests and resides. That's the only way unity, whether you're talking the familiar setting, the family setting, the community setting, or ultimately the nation setting. The only way we can ever organize and cooperate and be decent towards each other is if we have mutual respect of each other. The minute that breaks down, and it's been broken down for a long time, folks, but when it gets to the point where it hits rock bottom, you're going to see how this is going to unfold. And like I say, there's no such thing when it comes to this kind of left and right divide in terms of revolutions. There are no winners. History might write the books that there are winners or losers, but most of the time, the people that they're referencing as winners or losers are a couple key figures in terms of movements or political preferences. The people, the overwhelming masses, always and forever will lose. The only way we don't lose is to put fucking collectivism and having rulers entirely on the back burner. And just like I say, just do what you normally do in your regular life and expand that out and extrapolate that to the political process is where you respect each other and you're not constantly looking to use that big mystical gun in the room to force or impose your ideas on your opponents. If you can get away from doing that shit, trust me, we'll all be much better off and we'll live in a much more fruitful, prosperous, and peaceful society and world at the end of the day. But as long as we're going to play this game where it's a zero-sum game, where it's winner takes all, well, then it's never going to work out that's going to be beneficial because that's going to flip-flop time and time again where, yeah, your team might win this year, but your opponents are going to win next year. And when your opponents win, they're going to want to retaliate and take out their losses on you. And that means you're going to be the losers next time. So if you don't want to be a loser all the time, or at least half the time, the best thing to do is to do what's right for not just today, but for tomorrow and for the rest of your life. And that's support independence, critical thinking, and freedom of thought. And if you don't do that, well, just get ready to keep these battles going. And the battles, like I say, mean a whole lot of harm and hardships for no matter what side of the political aisle you divide or you accept.
And I'll just finish off on we've made lots of progress in the last 4 years under the Trump administration. That at the beginning of this, there was a huge push. I remember as libertarians, we had a motto that we go unite the right. We wanted to try to take Republicans, we wanted to try to take anarcho-capitalists, and we want to try to take minarchists and libertarians, and we want to try to unite them around a same cause of free market capitalism. Is because we knew we were up against communists, and if we all stood divided in our own little beliefs, that it was easier for the communists to take us down. So I remember in 2016, the tiki rallies, the protests in Oregon, all that stuff. Remember they called it unite the right, unite the right, unite the right. Here we are in 2020, and you got Newt Gingrich, Rudy Giuliani, and some of these people who I considered myself as an ANCAP 5-10 years ago. These are deep state swamps, I figured, who now have actually swung and are like, well, listen, we like to get rich. We're a crony capitalist fascist, but you know what? We're not communists. We're definitely not communists. So now you've taken Newt Gingrich and you've pushed Newt Gingrich into sounding more libertarian. Thank you. You just made a bunch of these Republicans like Jim Jordan and all these people have been Ted Gowdy, and all these intelligence people who've been sitting in the office for all these years, kind of just on the fence of being, kind of rhino Republicans. You just red pilled them all. They're all like, shit, it's side with the libertarians and unite the right or side with the Democratic communists. And in the same way, you made the Democratic Party, which was kind of in the middle. You kind of had the Sam Harrises, the Dave Rubins, the liberals. Well, you took them and you said, hey, you better go sign with the libertarians because it's communism. So thank you. You've expanded our movement. You've made more libertarians in the last 4 years than I could ever do in any videos that I put out. So good job, media. Every libertarian that comes to our side, nobody becomes a libertarian, understands the corruption of government, understands the freedom principles behind capitalism, free market, and wakes up and goes, I'm going to go back into a communist. I've never seen it. I've never seen it. So every single mind that I change into believing that freedom's the way to go and comes onto my team, you're never getting them back, folks. They're never going to swap back to the communist Democrats. So all I see is in the last 4 years, we went from a small minority libertarians debating about principles to now half the freaking country voted for Donald J. Trump and said, fuck you and your socialism, your communism, your PC culture. So you just made my army, you made my ranks swell up really nicely. And I'm sitting here today feeling very confident as a general in the army that I got a lot of soldiers now. So thank you.
Right on. Well, let me just say thank you very much to Brent Alderson for joining the stream, and I really appreciate, even though you were a little bit provocative earlier, I have no problem with that. That's like I say, I like to have discussions with people that even agree with me, and I'm fine with that. And thanks for you joining the stream, and thanks to you, Jesus Gonzalez, as well. We also had the Cabal Killer, and thank you for joining the stream as well. And Paul Lucas, thank you as well, even though you're a little bit late to stream. I did definitely bring up some of your comments. And Corey W, thank you as well for joining the stream. And anyone else that gets a chance to watch this later. And Matt, just take a couple minutes and take us out of here, and then we'll just tie this up.
All right, I'll just finish on everyone, get this information out here, share and like it. We're all bad for not sharing and helping our small creators like my father and myself.
Yep.
But you need to realize when I do this video for you guys today, I consider myself a digital warrior. The same way the governments have CIA agents working in Russian bot factories and all these other things and try to meddle in elections. Like my father said, the Democrats and the communists, they're organized, they're fighting, they're doing anything, they're ripping, they're trying to steal the election, they're doing whatever. And then I go to our libertarians and the people that view my videos. I can't even get you guys to share the information. Like, come on. We're in a war here, folks. It doesn't take much to click a like button and share and realize that what you're doing, you're a digital soldier and you're not fighting on the front lines with use and force. We're not there yet, and we don't hopefully never get there. But you can at least get the information out there. We're up against China's firewall. We're up against Twitter and all big tech censorship. So, what I do is if they take, and I've had multiple my videos, if people try to follow me in my main videos other than the channel that we have here, most of my stuff gets banned and taken down. But what I do is I create another channel and I just keep re-uploading because I like the whack-a-mole strategy. That every time they try to take one of us down, 2 more pops up. So, like our videos, subscribe to our videos, put the information out, donate, do whatever you can, because you know what? If you're not willing to put the fight in and at least tell some people, okay, can you watch this video? Give it a 30-minute try, give it a 15-minute try to give this information. The Republic's at stake. If you're not willing to do that, don't sit there on your high horse and think when the revolution kicks off, you're actually going to do shit if you can't even like or share. So this is not me trying to yell at you and beat you up. I'm telling you, please do the service of getting the information out, like it, share it, clip it. Me and my father, we're not intellectual property people that were like, oh, you can't use our material. Take our clips, use our material, get it out there. We're just here to put the information out. Do whatever you got to do. We don't care if you use our stuff, and just please like, share, and do it yourself. And if you're not having the courage to get out there and put a video camera to your face and do what me and my father can doing, then show support to the people who are having that courage, like my father and myself.
Perfect. Well said, Matt. And that's a perfect way to end this stream. So have a good one, folks, and we'll see you in the next one.